Shields up, Ironbreakers! How's everybody doing today on this fine Sunday evening? I myself am a little bit injured. You guys might remember the last stream that I did before the stream yesterday. I was actually hurt. It's actually, well, I guess I talked about it in the last stream already. Basically, I'm hurt. Okay? I'm in pain. I'm in serious pain. But I'm here. I'm soldiering through. We got a whole lot of news happening today because today is the day that Path of Exile, the team, Grinding Gear Games, they're going to be in here and they're going to be telling us everything that is planned for the future of the game, which is kind of a big deal because I'm very curious to see what they're going to be saying about maces. But the best part is, even if they don't say anything about maces, we know that Darth Microtransaction is going to bring it up because they're going to talk with Microtransaction as well as Ghazi after the official stream, so that will be pretty friggin' sweet. Today is the day Herald of Vice gets nerfed into the dirt. Hey man, it is what it is. It is what it is. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the stream, do remember to hit that like button. Helps out a lot. Thank you! So the official stream begins in approximately an hour. I wanted to start us off a little bit early, so we're going to be watching a video from Quinn. We might play a little bit of the game while we're waiting for the stream. We'll see what is happening. Água do Luz, what a bite. Yeah, buddy. Maces are wimps. It's all about the two-handed Chad Hammer. Two-handed Chad Hammer is actually worse off than Mace right now, so yeah. I really hope they massively buff armor so Warrior is better. Tell me about it, bro. I've already lost, like, I think... No, one map. I lost one map today. And it was my most juiced up map. I lost it because it was just like, I don't know. I was like... Something hit me. I don't even know what it was. Did you see Talkative Try tweet apparently getting new video revealed from GGG, new class? I hope so, dude. I'm here. I'm here for whatever they're going to be showing. This is kind of like my first update to Path of Exile 2, so I'm very curious to see what we're getting. Warrior is good if you build it like a monk. Yeah, I mean, if you build anything like a monk, it's going to be good. I mean, I've seen people build friggin' Deadeyes as monk. Well, not... Yeah, Deadeyes. Deadeyes as a monk. I've seen people build Gemling Legionnaire as a monk. Like, yeah, monk is, you know, all classes are great. If you put a staff on it, fantastic. Oh, man. It's gonna be hella good. Hella good. Rurikhan able to sustain tier 13, 15 in SSF now. Only have 52. Let me know if you want my Atlas tree. No. I've been doing okay. Like, I've got some maps under my belt. I can show you guys. I got some maps under my belt. I'm at level 84 right now. The thing is, like, let me show you guys something really funny, right? So I've been picking up and identifying every single mace, every single two-handed mace, like every single one of those I pick up and I identify. And earlier today I picked this up and it's like, here you go, +6 to all melee skills. I'm like, why is it a staff though? Why is it a staff? I put it in here just to remind myself of how bad my RNG is. Okay, it's absolutely ridiculous. Old Joe, dude, good luck with this one. I'm good with live services game I have. But, hey, I've had it. I'm good. I can't afford to burn money. That's the beauty of this game, though. You don't need to burn money. Even though this is a live service, this is one of those live services where it's like, hey, you can buy a couple of stash tabs. That's it. That's it. Like, I've put in about $30, which is how much you have to pay to even play the game. They give you the currency, and I've put that currency towards a couple of stash tabs. I'm happy with the stash tabs I have. Like, I have plenty of space. I have plenty of space, bro. I got space for days. For days. So, you know. But, yeah, I've been able to sustain a little bit now. We're currently going through tier 13s. I've got a bag of 5 here. I've only lost one map recently, but right now it's going okay. Like, my Atlas is not in complete and absolute shambles. I always press this wrong. Which one is it for the map? Is it N? No, I don't even know which button it is for the map because I don't play mouse and keyboard. Yeah, this is what my Atlas tree is looking like right now. We also have a boss tree because I've killed a level 81 in that one video. Was it 81? I forget what level the bosses have to be for you to get the stuff for the boss tree, but yeah, I have that, and then we have this this Atlas right now. +4 on the one hand, as high as it goes. I've heard people say that it's +5, but yeah, sure. Casters are favored by devs in every goddamn video game, we might add. Am I right? Casters are favored by devs in every goddamn video game. Sylveon VR! Thank you very much for becoming grossly incandescent at level 3. I don't even know how that works on Twitch, but thank you. Appreciate the support. Tip of the hat. Appreciate it. Thanks. But yeah, dude, like my interpretation is that usually most devs tend to hate melee classes for some reason. Rory C, thank you very much for being for 7 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. Did you figure out your build? I mean, there's nothing to change about my build. It's just armor bad. Like, that's it. That's the problem with my build. Like, hey, what's the problem with your build? Armor bad. That's all there is to it. This is the build. If you guys are curious, I showed it in the video. I was actually hoping that in the video someone would be like, okay, this point that you have here is worthless. This thing is bad. And most of it is like, no, it's mostly fine. It's just armor bad. Armor bad. That's it. That's the problem with my build. I mean, obviously, we could afford to have more health. Sure. I've been unlucky with health rolls and stuff, but yeah. Thank you for the amazing content. Been watching you for years. Always a great watch. Helped me through some rough times. Well, thank you, Sylvia. I'm happy I was able to help. Are totems fun to play? Totems are a blast. I love playing totems. Totems are really, really fun. Like I shred. I shred right now. Damage-wise, we are doing absolutely fantastic. The biggest problem is the rest is just surviving. Is the moment our shield goes down, dead. You're missing the node that gives damage for strength. The thing is, I don't have that much strength to make that even make sense. Because, like, if you look at our passive doesn't show here. I remember I made the calculation. We have, where's my strength? Here it is, 284. So I can give you a calculation. Miss Tommy Giggles, thank you very much for being gross. That's 24 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate support. Did I give the shout out already to Rory C? I think I did. Tip of the hat, Rory. Thank you. But as I was saying, like, I can give you the calculation, but I've calculated it, and it just isn't worth it. That particular node just isn't worth it unless you are stacking way more strength. So you're saying I'm missing this node, which is like 1% per 15 strength, which we're at 284. Like, I can give you guys the math. It's like 284 divided by 15. That'll be like 16% more damage. 16% more damage ain't all that much. Is it even more damage? No, it's increased damage. So 16% damage, right? For starters, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 node investment for me to go through right now. When the reality is I can just come over here and get 25% more, and you get the increased attack speed as well, which is way better, which is basically where we're headed. And it's also less nodes, and along the way we're going to already be getting like 10%, and then, you know, more here. And then we can also get these nodes for increased damage. So fact of the matter is, sure, this is great. Sure, this will scale. Also, we don't have enough strength to make it really that meaningful. So now I do want to have a two-hander, but I haven't found one. So there's no reason. Like, listen, the moment I find a good two-hander, sure, I'm down to come in here, respec all this shit, do all of the jazz, but we haven't found one. So why would I do that? It's worthless. Totems and one-handed mace. Like, what? For starters, you do understand totems are not affected by one-handed mace damage. Rurikhan, do you stream on Twitch? I'm also on Twitch whenever I'm doing Path of Exile stuff for drops and whatnot. So yes, we do dual stream. It's a good node, but not yet. Yeah, I know. Like, again, it's all about, it's not even about my level. It's about simply finding a two-handed mace that makes me want to use this. The moment I find a two-handed mace that makes me want to use this, then I'll consider like coming down here. But right now, it's straight up not worth it. Not by a long shot. No way. Rurikhan patch notes are out? No. Patch notes are probably going to... I don't know if the patch notes are coming out before or after the broadcast, but the broadcast is in about 45 minutes. So, yeah. Yeah, they're gummed 85. There is a GGG announcement expected soon. It's going to be a live stream. And then after they announce whatever it is that they're announcing, because I'm hoping that essentially what the live stream is today is going to be like, okay, guys, we heard all the feedback that you guys got. Here's what we're thinking for the future. Like, my big question, right? My big question isn't even about armor, because I know we're all talking about armor and warrior and armor and how that's a problem. Yes, I agree. But my biggest question isn't even about armor. My biggest question is about the pacing. You guys know what I'm saying? My biggest thing is about pacing. I want to know what is the actual direction of the game. Are we doing Path of Exile 1, zoom, zoom, let's go? Is that the way that we're supposed to do it? Like the way that Herald of Ice, Herald of Lightning are going right now? Is that the intended? Like, that's my biggest question. If I could ask GGG anything, that would be it. It'd be like, okay, guys, what is your intended pacing for the end game? Because I like the pacing of the campaign better. A lot of people like the pacing of the end game better. I need to know where is the direction of the game going. That's not to say that I won't play it if it's the pacing of the end game. It's just that's the thing that I really want to know. You also don't have supportive ancestors. If you don't have supportive ancestors, it's one of the nicest quality of life items. What do you mean supportive ancestors? Is that? I don't see that anywhere. Unless you mean this answered call, because I have that. I have exactly the same concern. I love the slower, methodical play. Yeah, agreed. It's on the tree up on the left. It's blinking. Bro, am I blind? Wait, am I blind? Oh, this one. Oh, I had this. I've already had this one. Why is this one the best one? I've wanted to get this. It's just, it's so far away. It's so incredibly annoying. Cause like, look at this tree, bro. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to build totems? Look at this. One of them's over here. The other one's over here. The other one's over here. And then the final one's like fucking all the way over here. Like, what, bro? Like, what the fuck? What is this? Meanwhile, if you're playing Witch, it's like everything's conveniently here. Oh yeah, everything you could possibly ever need is here. You're playing Monk, everything you could possibly ever need is here. It's like, bro, what is look at this. What is this? It's like I'm making a goddamn swastika with my tree. Like, what the hell is going on? Oh, God. Yeah, I've had this one before. The thing that bothers me, right, is like, unfortunately, I can't really gauge the effectiveness of what this does. Because, like, look, I'm a noob, okay? So whenever I'm going through the tree, and I'm like, okay, let's compare these nodes. Let's see what matter the most. Like, for instance, if I want to know, is this one better than this one? I'll just go in here and be like, okay, this one makes it go from 6,600 to 6,900. This one makes it go from 6,600 to 7,000. So it's like, okay, this one's the better node, right? And when I go here, it's like, I know it's good because it says 2% attack speed per summoned totem. So I'm summoning 3 totems, so that's 6% attack speed. And on top of it, 25% increased damage while I have a totem. So it's good, but I don't know how good it is. Because I press shift and nothing happens. It's very frustrating. That's the other thing. Like, you look at this one, for instance. Like, this one sounds really good because you go in here, it's like, bro, it's like 1,000 DPS increase. That's fucking crazy. But it's conditional, so it's like, ugh. Oh, man. Endgame sucks for me. I haven't found a good crossbow, and my rolls kind of sucked as well, so I use the same one from Act 2 base game. Yeah, it took me a while to get like a good crossbow, and then I just bought one from trade. It also doesn't tell you the damage for taking the path. Yeah, there's that as well. So like if you're looking at this node, and you're just like, it doesn't tell you, it doesn't take into account these other nodes. So yeah, it is kind of annoying to try and figure stuff out. Like, I think this is one of the most optimal ways of increasing damage with totems, but I could be completely wrong because I'm a noob. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is one of the reasons why I made my video about how not to play Path of Exile 2. I was hoping that somewhere in that video somebody would tell me, this node that you put on your tree, that's a noob trap. You need to get out of there. And I'd be like, thank God, yes. But no, what people did tell me is that, oh, you need to put something into, is it this one? Where the fuck is it? Yeah, this. You need to put it in the price of freedom so that you reduce mana cost, convert that to life, and you need to increase your life regen. And I was like, I did the math on the life regen. So I've actually went to the trouble of like doing the math. Okay, what would happen if I was to pick up all of these 10% nodes plus this one of 0.05 per second, and then going all the way over here, picking up these regen nodes, and then going all the way over here, picking up these regen nodes, even though I don't know how you calculate this one, because this one's 15% increased life recovery rate. So I don't know how this one gets calculated, but I just calculated it like a regular life regen. Basically, the point is, I made all the calculation, and what I realized is like, even if I stack all of these regen nodes, my regen is still going to suck ass. And so I was like, fuck all that. I'll just block. Good luck, you know? Think the pace should match your build. If you can't one-shot everything, you should be won by everything. And if you make a build that can't be killed, you should expect to clear a snail's pace. I don't know about that, because everybody will still just go for the zoom builds, so I don't know. Life regen's generally a noob trap, but I don't know about totem builds. Yeah. Recovery isn't regen, is it? Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what recovery does. I know you can get regen as a mod on items, but I'm playing solo self-found, so you can't really rely on that much. But basically, the math that I did on the regen, it wasn't going to be that good, so I didn't even bother. I didn't even bother because, like, okay, this ain't even that good. Now listen, before we get to the official announcement, I want to check out this this video by Quinn, because Quinn made a video on Elon, and I figured that this would be an interesting watch. For those of you that don't know, Elon Musk was caught he live streamed himself playing on what is essentially a purchased account, okay? Listen, we all used to make fun of this all the way back in Diablo 2. There were people buying accounts in Diablo 2. I'm talking like OG Diablo 2, okay? Not fucking D2 remastered. Back then, we would always know, oh, this guy's on a fucking eBay account. We'd know. You can tell, okay? We've seen the same thing in World of Warcraft. We've seen a bunch of stuff, and it's like what Elon did. You could clearly see, okay, this is a bot account, like straight up, no excuses, no nonsense. He bought this account, like there's no ifs, ands, which is kind of dumb, because like I think people would be way more on his side if he had just shown himself earnestly playing the game. You know, it would be more relatable. But him trying to fake that he's like this god gamer, hardcore level 97, just like Giga Chad. Then he's got a tab that says Elon's maps, right? It's like, you guys didn't see anything, okay? Just forget that tab is there, okay? That's just for my own personal organizational purposes. Don't worry about it. But yeah, let's get let's get to watching the video from Quinn and see what's going on.
I have a lifetime of playing video games. At one point, I was, maybe one of the best Quake players in the world.
You're actually like a world-class, incredible video game player.
Yeah.
The Paragon board and the build, you're also an innovator there.
Yeah, I've played a lot of video games.
You think about like StarCraft, any game where a lot of people are playing. To rise to the top, you have to be exceptional, period, as a human being.
Yeah.
There has to be something exceptional about you.
Yeah.
Are you in the top 20 in the world or the top 20? Wow, in Diablo.
Yeah.
Shooting rockets into space, making e-vehicles, starting a new department of the government. I actually let myself think maybe he actually is an alien, because there's just no way, unless he's paying people to do it for him, which obviously he's not.
Unless he's paying people to do it for him. Uh-oh.
So let's start off with some context. Elon Musk's character is currently level 97, aka rank 12 on hardcore, that's permanent death mode, Trade League. Let me try to give you a quick understanding as to how hard it is to get to that level. 2 weeks into the league, when people are playing the game, literally they're staying up 40 to 50 hours without sleeping, only playing Path of Exile.
See, this is one of the things that even back when they announced that he was the top Diablo 4 player, because at one point it was announced that he was top D4 player, I was thinking to myself, now wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're trying to tell me this motherfucker right here is like managing SpaceX. He's managing Tesla. He's managing like whatever the fuck he's doing from the political side of things. With Trump's campaign, showing up to like big rallies and all of this stuff. Because it was around that time, I think it was when Trump was still in the running for president, doing the campaign. I think that's when it was announced that Elon was the best Diablo 4 player. He's doing all of these things. And somehow he finds time to be the best Diablo 4 player in the world? I was like, bro, I'm doing something wrong with my life. I can't even manage just 2 kids and streaming. I can't even manage 2 kids streaming and content creation. That's absolutely insane. So even back then, I was like, there's something weird. And then this stream popped up. I didn't even watch it. I started by watching the first Quinn video, which is not this one. Quinn has another video where he first reacted to this. And I was like, oh no, when you see him go by the Exalted Orb. And we saw that in my stream as well. Like I downloaded that video because I had a sneaky suspicion that he would eventually just delete the video because he was caught red-handed. So I have that video downloaded and I watched it myself. And the Exalted Orb thing was hilarious because he goes by the Exalted Orb once. And then because he's not mapping properly, he has to go back. And he goes back by the Exalted twice, and he still doesn't pick it up. But him dragging the stuff onto the inventory, oof.
And they are the most try-hard guys in the world. The highest ranked player on the Hardcore Trade League was level 93. Okay, and you're thinking about yourself, that's kind of close to 97. Every time you level it up, it becomes exponentially harder to gain experience. A lot harder and a lot harder. Okay, so these players, to get to 97, have to be playing the game every day for the majority of their day. Currently, what is their highest ranked player? They're level 97, same as Elon Musk. So, I mean, he effectively has been playing, pretty much just doing nothing except playing Path of Exile. So let's just go over some of the things that happened. So right away, we see Elon zone into his hideout, which is your area you do in-game content from. And he opens up his bank, and he goes...
Bro. Elon's map. I think almost every player now has a tab that says their name and map to have their maps. I am not kidding. I actually moved all of my maps to a premium tab because I had all my maps on a non-premium tab. I moved them to a premium tab just so that I could name it Ruri's map. Okay?
Goes to a tab called Elon's Maps, which immediately is a little bit of a red flag because I don't know why you would refer to yourself in third person, but okay, he does that. Elon Musk didn't play Path of Exile 1. In Path of Exile 2, maps are actually called Waystones. And he never actually refers to them as maps. He calls them...
Play another round here. This is a hard level. Waystone.
So it's just kind of weird that he's, again, called this tab Elon's map. So almost like someone who's a Path of Exile 1 veteran, you know, is kind of making that tab and be like, Elon, you know, there's a tab there called Elon's Maps. Grab your map out there. I've rolled them all for you. They're nice and easy. He then proceeds to walk up to his map device and go to put a map in. The literal first thing you learn upon getting to the end game is how to operate this map device.
This was the biggest one. When he's trying to click in this thing and I was like, oh no. Oh no. He's literally just like and nothing's happening. He's like, oh, something's wrong with the game. I can't click.
You're going to start off at a node, and then from that node, you can go to adjacent connected maps. Now, Elon, he's trying to click.
Oh, he's trying to do the map that's not in the chain.
He's just clicking a map repeatedly, trying to access it. He was not eligible to enter that map.
I just want you guys to understand, this is one of the highest level hardcore characters in the game. He would have played thousands of maps at this point.
Anyone who's level 97 is, and you know, we're talking one of the most efficient players in the game, period. There is no way you would do that. Why just like sitting there like some sort of geriatric old man clicking this node, expecting something to happen.
Why does the geriatric have to come? Like, bro, come on, man. Listen, I'm 43. Come on, dude. Like, there's no need for the old man insults. Okay, let's just chill out. There's no need for all this aggression. Okay.
And then he finally kind of gives up after a while and then realizes his mistake. We then get a look at his inventory. So Elon Musk is stuck going into the map and with full bags. If you're an efficient player, you're going to clear a map.
You never, ever go into maps with a full... I mean, come on, man. Come on. You're bald, my guy. Ban that guy. Ban him. Ban him. You're banned, Slytherin. How dare you? How dare you besmirch... Bro, how dare you besmirch my healthy head of hair? Okay? How dare you? How fucking dare you, sir? This is unacceptable. Ban this person. Get out. Get out!
Map, you're going to loot the valuable items. You're going to go in, and you're going to take those items, and you're going to basically... look through the good ones, keep the good ones, list them up for sale, and then truck away the trash ones. It's almost like he has no understanding as to like what items are or what you're even supposed to do with them. So now Elon zones into the map.
So what I'm doing here is just boosting my shield before battle via meditation. Meditation before battle is always good.
And he starts killing monsters. He starts obliterating monsters with his character. But what becomes obviously apparent...
The Chaos Sword.
Chaos Orb, no loot filter.
Filter is like no, he's just running back.
Okay, look, I don't use a loot filter. I don't think you need to use a loot filter. Well, I guess maybe at his level you might, depending on how many drops you get. But it didn't seem like he was getting an astonishing amount of drops that you need a loot filter. I don't use a loot filter. I don't think the loot filter part is super important. I guess maybe if I used the loot filter, I'd be way better. Because I'd be faster at identifying. The thing is, I'm kind of scared that I turn on the loot filter, and then say, for instance, I'm still picking up expert slim maces, like anything that's a mace with expert, I'm picking that up. And I don't know if the loot filter is going to filter those out because it's just worthless blue items. So, yeah, I don't know.
Past Chaos Orbs! He just ran past the Chaos Orb!
Chaos Orbs are one of the most important currencies, and they're also really rare. I have about 140 Exalts. I have like 9 Chaos Orbs, just so you guys understand.
So in Path of Exile, the devs are these evil guys, and they talk about feeling the weight, and they effectively just drop tons and tons of items. And you have to know what to pick up. So what GGG have done, the people...
Look at this shit. What the fuck, bro? This is what I call a bukkake of loot.
People who make the game, they've made this system called loot filters, which gets rid of 90 to 95, even in some cases, like we're talking 98% of all loot that drops, because otherwise your screen is just cluttered. And you won't even notice when you get a good drop. It's unfathomable for someone to be in the top ranks without a loot filter. Yet Elon Musk, the god gamer, he doesn't play with a loot filter. The only thing Elon does pick up are maps, because the default in-game loot filter highlights those. Those things are worthless. The actual items of value that he should be picking up, that he would have had to pick up in order to get the gear, leave it on the ground. Anyone who's been playing the game and is a complete expert, we're talking he's cleared thousands of maps, he's been playing that character for hundreds of hours, he's going to be pretty damn good at, playing the character. He gets to the boss, he's fighting the boss, and I want to say for about 10 seconds, he sits there and he's out of mana. Mana is a resource in this game where you need it
abilities grayed out due to lack of
in order to use your abilities. He just sits there, default attacking the boss without activating his mana flask. Anyone who's played the game and understands the character would understand, like, oh, I'm not doing any damage because I'm out of mana. Elon Musk takes 10 seconds. He then goes on to loot items off the ground. He starts dragging them into his bag. Like, I don't even know how to describe to you how painful that is to anyone.
Like, let me tell you something about this particular thing right here, okay? This video is the first time I learned you can even do this. I didn't even know you can drag items from the ground into your inventory. I've never done that before. I've never seen it done before. I had no idea you could do it. I thought it's like, no, you got to clear your inventory, then you click the item, and then you pick, click, in my case, I use the controller, but, you have to pick up the item, you just click on it, and that's it. I was like, bro, what the fuck is
into
this?
His bag. Like, I don't even know how to describe to you how painful that is to anyone who actually plays the game. And his bags are full, and he just keeps clicking it over and over and over again. Nobody, not even people who are kind of noobs at the game, do this. I don't even think Elon Musk has done the campaign, honestly, like, just based on what I'm seeing in terms of the gameplay. His settings on the map transparency are turned on by default. His life values are turned on.
Hey. I also like seeing the artwork on the maps. Okay. Oh, but I do have that. Hey, you can actually check this, okay? Look. I have that on. It's right there. And here's spirit and mana and all that bullshit. I have that on. Huh? Although when I actually play, I don't know if does it show up? It does, because I have like the controller UI all moved over to the left. But yeah.
All these basic settings that anyone in the top 100 would do, he is not doing. Maps can effectively have different content on them, and that content will be signified by icons on the map. So it could be a map which has an expedition in it, a breach in it, or it could be corrupted. Elon starts looking through the atlas, and he finds a map. It has 4 things. I kid you not, 4 things on it.
There are 4 things there.
I mean, if there's 4 things. I mean, obviously, there's breach, there's expedition, there's the irradiation, which increases the mob's level by 1, and then there's what's this one called? It's the thing that merges mobs together. See, it's the thing, corruption. That's what it is. It's corruption.
So this one has a real risk of dying.
4 things. What are those things?
It's got 4 things.
It's 4 things.
4 things.
So this one has a real risk of
Not
dying.
this far in the game and calling it 4 things.
It's 4 things.
Dude, stop. Oh my god, it literally can't.
You guys are so elitist. Why can't Elon just call it 4 things? It's 4 things. There's 4 things on the map.
He then goes on to say, "I kid you."
This is max difficulty on hardcore. If there's a way to get higher difficulty, I don't know what it is, but...
Isn't this wrong? Because I don't think that this map... Because you need, like... Is it level 15 or level 16 map? I forget. I think it's level 15 map, but then you need to have a bunch of irradiations on the map, and then that increases the level or something like that. So I don't actually think that the map he's doing is the hardest one.
This is everything maxed out.
Path of Exile has boss fights and end-game bosses, which are quote-unquote difficult battles, obviously. Which Elon actually did do in one of his streams, where he just went into the end-game boss and died repeatedly to it. Maps are just farming. You go into maps and you farm them for loot and experience. They're not the most difficult battles, and I don't know if he's trying to deceive people watching a stream into thinking that he's doing some insanely hard thing, whenever he's literally doing something you do to effectively grind or farm. And if you thought this was bad, I did not even get to the worst part. In Path of Exile, gear has requirements to equip it.
Oh yeah, this one was the best.
That has nothing to do necessarily with how good it is. For example, one of the most powerful and best items in the game is a level 1 required to equip staff, which is maybe, I think, even the most meta build in the game right now. It's super, super broken, insane damage. And Elon Musk starts going over his gear.
This is a great staff, but it's only a level, 62 staff.
His weapon.
I've heard that this is one of the best weapons in the game. I don't actually know that much about monk stats, so it does have a bunch of physical damage, but couldn't you get an even better roll on this staff if it was an expert barrier quarterstaff? Again, I don't actually know because I don't play monk, so I don't know what's the... I guess it's just the amount of importance. Oh, it's got increased attack speed and critical damage bonus. Yeah, kind of get it. Double fizz crit and crit damage, 19 attack speed. Yeah. So it's like you can get something. I would assume you can still get it better if it's expert, but still, it'll probably be hard. Yeah, at 177 increased physical.
Is, I kid you not, one of the best, if not the best staffs on the entire hardcore trade league. You cannot even buy it. Insane weapon.
These affixes are, I'd hate to say perfect, but they might be perfect.
Just the PvPS criteria on trade, we can see there's literally one staff in existence on the entire market. Not only does Elon have a staff that you can't even buy, but it's so good that the second best one, which is missing 2 of what makes a staff so powerful for an invoker, which is the crit and crit bonus, is still 20 divines, and that's obviously very expensive.
Here I am, level 95, but my staff is only level 62. my helmet is level 56.
Int, lightning, and chaos resist. Okay.
18% chaos resist. That life kind of sucks, though, all right? That maximum life, that's kind of weak sauce, but then again, he doesn't need it because he's using energy shield anyway, so whatever.
Only 56.
Amulet level 61. Ring is only level 48, 49. At least a level 75 jacket.
It's a jacket with 6 things.
A jacket with 6 things.
Tell us how bad the item that only drops from the highest difficulty of the hardest boss. Just tell us that it's only level 52. The highest difficulty of the...
I actually never seen this item. Evasion rating 60, 23, these gloves, 23 dexterity, 24 to intelligence, 3% increased attack speed per 25 dexterity, 1 to 10 lightning damage to attacks per 10 intelligence. And you would stack intelligence on this build, of course. That's fucking wild, dude. It's fucking wild.
Hardest boss. Just tell us that it's only level 52. Did you find this at level 52? That's impressive.
Level 52 here.
They can only ever be level 52.
Crip is just losing his shit.
Bro, Elon Musk is a fucking fraud, bro.
Pretty low level compared to my character level, but it seems to work pretty well. In softcore, you can get much better equipment.
In order for him to have insane gear, he has to understand how the economy works. He has to be basically trading.
Anyone who's played Path of Exile to the end game in a trade league knows that you have to trade in order to obtain what looks like some of the best gear pieces in the entire game. If we look at some of these player accounts, we can see what they have for trade. 700 plus items for sale, multiple divine items. You can see hundreds of divines worth of listed items. This is also someone from the top 10, rank number 4, focus here, worth 50 divines alone. This is the number 1 guy. You can see hundreds of divines, again, worth of items, multiple mirrors, all these players. If we go to Elon's account, he's got only 21 items for sale, and they're all absolute garbage. It's clear he's really not making much money, or any money at all. So something I did notice last week, I did the same search because I was curious what he might have been selling, and I grabbed the screenshot, which I shared to my Discord, and it's this really, really, really crappy crossbow for 18.
Bro, this is this isn't even from Cruel or Maps, bro. It's just a makeshift crossbow. How's this item worth 19 divine orbs? What a piece of shit. Bro, 19 divine orbs for this piece of garbage? What a fucking joke.
which I shared to my Discord, and it's this really crappy crossbow for 18 divines. So why is it listed for 18 divines, and where did it go? Is it possible he vendored it? Yes. Why was it listed for 18 divines? I don't really know. I don't want to fuel any conspiracy theories, but I have been made aware that RMT, typically they use legitimate listings that are far overpriced, and that is how they mask the transaction as legitimate. So if he were to buy 18 divines for, you know, $100 US or whatever, he could have done so through this listing.
And if you needed any more proof that Elon is 100% boosted, he was playing the game today inside of maps, blasting, while simultaneously on a X space talking to like some far right wing part of some German government. I don't know, some political bullshit. Okay, I guess he's just that much of a god gamer.
The geopolitical conversation was just not enough to engage his Giga Chad brain. Why are people so suspicious? Clearly, the geopolitical conflict that he was dealing with was not that, you know, engaging. So he needed a little bit of distraction. Okay? You guys know how Destiny used to play video games while he was talking to people? It's the same thing. Rip Elon. Elon, no. Perseverance level 97 has died at position 7 on the ladder. Rip. Get fucked, Elon slave. Damn. Back to the beach, bozo. Bro, people are fucking savage. Back to the beach. Bro, that is fucking woo. That is harsh. Back to the beach you go. Oh, man. Alrighty. This is actually a really cool video. Guys, make sure to go in there, give it some watch time, make sure to hit the like button, do all of that stuff. I've just linked it in both chats. Do leave it a like. Pretty cool stuff. It's just kind of sad, you know, because like, why would you do this? Why wouldn't you just play the game? Like, you know, I'm just playing the game, just chilling. Like, I'm not coming out here saying like, oh guys, I got the best fucking build. Oh man, check out my fucking Giga Chad totem build. Like, what? Oh man, D2 hardcore rip back to the village. Yeah, bro. GG interview in 15 minutes. I don't think it's an interview. First, there's an announcement video that they're working on. And then there's going to be the interview thing that they're going to be doing. You guys think I have time to fail a map? Let's fail a map real quick while we're waiting on stuff. What do you guys think about that? Ugh, excuse me. Let me where's the? Oh yeah, I got to turn on. Let me show you guys my Giga Chad build. What the fuck? Or maybe not. My account was also bought and paid for 100%. Not enough time for a map? What do you mean not enough time for a map? I'm telling you, two-handed Giga Chad hammer build's the best. No, it's not. I know this for a fact. I'm running out of space for my maps. How do you deal with it? Ban Avatar Blade. Ban him. Get rid of him. Don't make fun of me. What the fuck? The fuck do you mean? So let's see. We're supposed to be doing tier 13s. Oh crap. I didn't even clean my inventory. Maybe we don't have time for a map. I should do like Elon. Go into a map with like a full inventory. That would be reasonable. It's pretty fucking bad. It's pretty bad. How about this belt? Is it any good? It's pretty fucking bad too. Rip. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Oh, we do have an expert slim mace. Here we go, boys. Gamba time. It's Gamba time, and it's garbage. Goodbye.
Hello.
I keep hoping for something good to come out of that, and nothing ever does. Right, let me grab my worst map and do like a bad map. Oh man, it doesn't even have like my the person piloting my account didn't even make my map rare. That's very incompetent of them. What is this? Crypt? Crypt is bad. Didn't I do something that would allow me to go do a boss real quick? I just want something nice and easy to chill. Don't have anything good. Damn it. My maps only have 2 and 3 things. Backwash with Expedition. Yeah, sure. I doubt I'll be able to finish it before it's time for the thing, but... It only has 3 things, boys. Watch me just, like, get murked right off the bat. Jesus, these roly boys. Get him, my totem. My totem boys. My totem boys won't get him. Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? Stop rolling around. Yeah, I know, I'm supposed to be starting to move further and further from the start point. It's just I've been setting up stuff for having a bunch of modifiers on maps, juicing them, and I was trying to take advantage of those, but my survivability is so bad, it makes that hard. But see, this is the totem playstyle. Totem life, with 0 survival. These guys are like going bananas out here. Hey, Arcanist Etcher. Really, dude? Tier 6? Thanks. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Did you just summon a spirit turtle? I'll summon whatever I goddamn want, okay? I'm a shaman up in here. I summon all the things. Don't ask me what the turtle does. I wouldn't know. The person who piloted my account didn't inform me of what it does. No, the turtle gives you a defensive bonus. The guys with the didgeridoo, they give you a rage bonus. And monkey just charges and thrashes about. Okay, guys, now here's what we're gonna do, okay? We're gonna pull an Elon. I'm gonna pick up everything. Except the Chaos Orb, because we don't need that, okay? We don't need the Chaos Orb. Chaos Orbs are for losers. Real homies don't pick up Chaos Orbs. Like, imagine picking up a Chaos Orb, please. We don't do that here, okay? We don't pick up Chaos Orbs. Now, let me I just need to check something real quick. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm too pro to pick up Chaos Orbs, guys. Can you use a mouse cursor to pick up something? No, you can't. Not yet. I hope they add that functionality soon, because managing your inventory on a controller is fucking nightmare fuel, bro. Absolute nightmare fuel. I don't know why you can't do it, but I hope that we get to do that soon. Bro, these grenades are so dangerous. I lost one of my maps because of these fucking grenades, dude. It's crazy. No mana. It's the fat lady on this map, right? I forget. Did I actually load a map with a boss? I hope I did. We'll be playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Likely no. Doesn't that come out around the same time as the betas for Monster Hunter? You know where my priorities lie. I just hope that this game doesn't make me choose between playing this and Monster Hunter. That would make me very sad. Not even Assassin's Creed wanted to bite that bullet. Ubisoft learned that they should stay away from its betters. That's what they've learned. They should steer clear away from its betters. I actually don't need that. For that. Damn, a lot of them are merging together. Look at them go. Out of the way. It was the grenades. It was the grenades! Those fucking grenades, bro! It never stops. It never stops. I'm looking at chat. I missed the pack that threw the grenades. So, anyway. I would expect the stream to be starting right about now.
Map conditions.
Oh wait, the thing is being hosted on Darth Microtransactions thing? I thought that they were doing their own event first.
All right, I'll say it one last time, just in case this ends up happening for the people that are watching. In 4 minutes, we're going to begin a reveal. The reveal will be a video that will play out revealing everything that is coming. After that, there will be an interview in which we'll be interviewing Jonathan and Mark, the game directors of the game. We have a list of questions, about 70 questions long. We will attempt to get through most of these. It's a 2-hour interview, so I'm sure some of these will not be asked just due to the brevity of the interview. With that being said, all of these questions, except me asking a question about Blight and Druid and Ghazi asking a question about minions, are all taken from the audience. So we are just basically taking questions that the audience wants to see and directly handing them over to the devs at this point.
I'll probably like make a statement of that in the intro.
Sure.
As well, so that gets to the VOD as well.
Sure. There will be a VOD of this on YouTube. Obviously, the Twitch VOD will be here too. On Ghazi's YouTube channel, he will publish the video afterwards. It's hosted here, and then it goes to his YouTube VODs. There is currently a storm in Alaska because I am stuck in this terrible place that is happening, and my power is flickered 3 times. So in the scenario of the power going out here, and of course, no other day but today have I had any storms, if that happens, you can watch it on Ghazi's TV's channel. The main PoE channel is restreaming my stream, so if my stream goes down, their stream's going to go down, so you would have to go to Ghazi in that scenario.
God damn, dude, the luck! The absolute luck!
That's everything.
I mean, if Darth Microtransaction is
thanks all for being here, and
is doing the thing, I'm going to watch it over on his thing.
Good luck with that.
Dude, I think it's his biggest stream, isn't it? 35,000 concurrents! Go DM! And Ghazi, let's go, baby! Let's get it. That's fucking crazy. Why not announce all remaining 6 classes? Because no. That's why. Let's play a game. You can play Wilds but never use Gunlance, or you can play Wilds fully but not play PoE 2 and Night Rain. Best those? No. Shut the hell up. Yeah. I'll hurt you. I will do what I want.
Like, we've done it a few times with, especially with these guys as well.
Yeah.
Not really nervous. It's always a lot of pressure when it comes to making sure that we make sure the community.
I love how he's got a bathtub.
Not
a bathtub,
not nervous,
a hot tub.
But
concerned that we're not going to be able to do the community justice.
Yep.
I mean, pretty much all the questions are from.
I can confirm. So. I can confirm from when I interviewed the Monster Hunter devs, I felt the same way. I was like, man, I got to make sure that I represent the community when we appropriately.
Full screen with the review, so we don't accidentally talk over it for the VOD.
Will do.
They already announced all the 6 classes, yes. I hope that they announce the armor fix. That would be great. Armor fix would be fantastic.
Okay, 1 minute. T-minus 1 minute, boys.
Check Discord.
Uh-oh. Check Discord. Uh-oh. Problems are happening. Guys, we're going to have to delay the reveal. It's going to happen right now. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, do hit that like button.
After
subscribe, bell notification icons,
be like
all of that stuff.
5 minute downtime while we get technical stuff set up. So it's going to be on like black screen, just so you guys know.
Yeah,
for
and feel free to follow on Twitch,
that's
primers,
like normal, so
all of the usual stuff. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all for being here with me. You're
25
the real ones.
seconds.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Here we go. It's about to happen.
As soon as I play the video here in 10 seconds, you're going to need to let me know. I will have to open the chat for this here. You guys are going to need to let me know how the audio is. Okay? If it needs to go up or down, just as a heads up. Okay, with that being said, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Muting mic.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. Well, we're back from our break. We've been playing the game a whole lot, and we've been reading a whole lot of feedback as well. So it's time to assess and work out what we're going to do next.
Okay.
Now, later this week, we'll be releasing PoE 2 0.1.1. This is a patch designed to address the concerns that we can address relatively quickly, without needing to create a new league or a new economy just yet. In this video, we'll be going over some of the issues we've identified, and what we're planning on doing about them. It's worth stressing that just because a specific issue isn't on this list doesn't mean that we're not aware of it or that it isn't going to get addressed. It just means that we either can't fix the problem quickly, or we can't do so without the need for a new economy.
Armor better be in there, please.
One of the major areas that needs a lot of attention is the base experience of mapping. We've made a lot of changes here. First, in-game maps have received a balance pass to the number of monsters, number of chests, number of magical rare monsters, number of essences, strongboxes, and precursor artifacts. You should generally find maps more rewarding than before. Maps generally specialize in one or more of these elements that they will be particularly rewarding in. Now, towers are a thing that's very important for players to run often, but we only had one of them. We wanted to add more variety here as soon as possible, so we've added 4 more tower maps.
Oh!
Alpine Ridge, Sinking Spire,
new tower maps, nice!
Bluff, and Mesa. We've also redone the existing Lost Towers map to make playing there less boring.
Okay.
We're now also spawning more maps with bosses. The rate was intended to be 1 in 4 maps, but in reality the rate was much lower due to some maps being unable to spawn bosses.
I like bosses.
We've increased the rate to compensate for this issue so that we can get the actually intended rate. We're also adding a new type of tablet that allows you to add bosses to your maps with its own mod pool.
Ooh.
Strongboxes also needed some love. They now spawn monsters faster, have a less annoying fog effect, and have also received changes to the timings and effects of the mods on them. Now, let's talk about visibility of effects. Many maps had too much clutter, preventing effects on the ground from rendering, causing you to be unable to see and dodge them. We both changed the level of clutter on some maps, and has changed some effects to make sure that they are always visible.
Bro, how's that warrior
In addition,
surviving so
elemental
much? That's like
explosion
a tier
effects have
0
had visibility
map.
improved. Stick around for longer before they explode, and disappear without exploding if a rare monster dies. Volatile plants are also way easy to see before they explode. Now we've also increased the zoom level on the Atlas, done a pass on various terrain collision issues in many maps. We've also improved the load times of opening the world map and Atlas
Thank
panel.
God!
And we also now show the biome of a map on the hover for it.
Oh,
For
okay,
other in-game content systems, we're focusing on getting all the rewards in line with what they should be. For Delirium, we recently fixed a bug which caused Delirium monsters to just not spawn after the starting part. And we've also buffed the rate of simulacrums dropping by 20%, to make it more in line with the rate of finding the expedition and ritual bosses. For Ritual, we've made Omens now appear in the Ritual Tribute window 60% more often.
Good.
For
I've never seen
Expedition,
one.
we've improved the rarity from the shops.
Yes.
We'll be wanting to make some more substantial changes to the rewards for this league later on. Now, one of the major concerns that we're often seeing is that getting to play Pinnacle content just takes too long, and that when you do finally get there, you only get one attempt and don't get a chance to learn the boss.
Yes, this is important.
In order to address these concerns, we're making the following changes. First, we're making the Citadel spawn closer to the center of the Atlas, and we've also added an effect so you can see them in the fog of war from further away. This makes them much easier to find. To address the problem of only having one attempt, on the Arbiter of Ash you will now get up to 6 respawn attempts. Respawns can only be triggered by the person who put in the keys, and everyone in your party will be respawned at the same time. Leaving the map still forfeits your attempt, so you'll still need to fight the boss with the build you walked into the map with. Higher difficulties of the boss will lower the number of respawn attempts you get, but you should know the mechanics of the fight by then, right? Now, we'll also be adding respawns to other Pinnacle content as well over time. Another thing that players have noticed is that there are less keys from Faradin Citadels on the market, and thought that it was because the Citadel spawns less often. It turns out though that this is just because the boss kills players more often than the others. We've made a few changes to that boss to bring it in line with the other bosses. A lot of people have reported that many of our unique items are feeling underwhelming.
Yes.
Uniques are often designed to be build enabling at high levels, even if they're low level uniques. But we realize that we do need to make sure that more uniques feel powerful when you first get them at low levels too. In this patch we are buffing a lot of uniques. These changes should make finding uniques at lower levels a lot more fun, and make subsequent character playthroughs more fun too when you have some great uniques to use. We're also changing a few other things to make finding rares better at higher levels too. First, we're changing mod weightings a bit to make sure that there are less bad mods. Another fix is making high tier items no longer cull the highest tier modifier of a given mod type. This bug caused bows and crossbows to not spawn with attack speed at tier 5 rarity, and rings to not spawn with life at tier 5 rarity. Another change we're making is to make it so that socketables such as runes can now be overwritten with another socketable. Now, as we continue to play, we still find many balance anomalies with specific monsters or bosses that can be nasty if you encounter them. This patch contains a pass adjusting a large number of those monsters and bosses. We'll save the full list for the patch notes, but there are a significant number of changes here that should address many cases where monsters or bosses felt too hard in certain circumstances. Here are a few examples to get a taste of what kind of changes you can expect.
Okay.
The Silver Fist Commander roll now does a lot less damage. Plague Bearer's Detonate Dead can no longer be used from off screen and has better telegraphing. Forsaken Miners throw less grenades, have improved visuals, and deal less damage.
Oh my god, that's what just killed me!
Can no longer meteor you from off screen either, as well as many other changes.
The grenades thing was literally what killed me in that map. I couldn't see them. One of the big issues for players on consoles is that the web-based item filter system is currently not working. This means that they can't use item filters like the PC users can. For 0.1.1, we'll be enabling the same system that PoE 1 has, which allows you to subscribe to item filters on the website. For now, this will be done on the PoE 1 website to allow us to get this feature out as fast as possible. Later on, we'll improve the user experience of this and put it on the Path of Exile 2 website. This patch also contains a bunch of other smaller changes and bug fixes that I'm sure you guys will appreciate. Like buffing armor and scavenged places. Yes!
Showing the number of uses left in your charms,
Let's
as well as an effect when they trigger.
Armor buffs!
Fixing the music that Una was supposed to play in town.
Oh, I like this too, yes! This is something I noticed didn't work.
And plenty of other little fixes and improvements throughout the game.
When's this coming?
We have a huge amount of much more meta-shifting changes that we know we want to make. And one of the best things about having the game in early access with the endgame is that we now have a much better idea of where we want character power to be and what the balance of bosses and monsters should be relative to that. But those types of changes are going to have to wait until we are ready to make a new league with a new economy for people to play in. That's still a little while away yet, but in the meantime we'll be continuing to identify things that are causing frustration and try and address them. I want to thank you guys for playing and hope to be doing more of these in the future. Later.
All right, so there you have it. Pretty awesome. We are now going to call them, get them ready for the interview. So we're going to go to a screen here that is a be right back type of screen here. You will hear no audio, and it will just be a blank screen for probably 5-10 minutes at the highest. And now we're going to do an interview about what we just saw. So give us one moment here.
Alrighty. That was very, very, very good, dude. That is a lot of concerns. Now, the thing is, did they say when? No classes, damn. I mean, of course, they're not ready for those yet. But it's like, did they say when this patch is coming? They just said later this week. Bro, I hope it's soon. I hope it's tomorrow, dude. I need this patch like yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So what will this armor buff really mean? It means that I won't die to literally everything in the goddamn game anymore, hopefully. That would be good. Yeah, I know it's later this week, but I want to know exactly what that means. I need to know. I need to know now. I need this now. Did they update the website? Let's see here. Early access announcements, early access patch notes. 0.01 F. No. It is because it's 0.0. It's 0.11 is the name of the next patch. Oh man. Still just out of nowhere. No, Robert. It needs to be more than that. Armor needs to be very close to being on par with other mitigation things. Mitigation and avoidance and all of that stuff. So, needs to be on par with energy shield and evasion. I don't care. Needs to be on par. It is what it is. They're probably still working on it. Yeah. They also said that they're going to be adding the never sync thing for consoles. That's going to be good too. So hells yeah, dude. Was there anything that they didn't say that you guys wish that they would have said besides it's already patching on Steam now? What the fuck? Is that guy lying? I think that guy's lying, right? Motherfucker be lying. Dirty liar. Yeah, there's nothing here, dude. Fucking liar, bro. He's a liar. Can't believe it.
Of audio now.
Oh.
Hello, everybody. So here we are. Let's just real quick, now that we have the audience here, I'm going to have Jonathan one more time say something real quick just to make sure they can hear us well, and we'll get feedback from the chat.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2.
Sounds fantastic.
Sir, Mark.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Mark. Hello, this is me speaking, and I didn't want to say the same thing he said.
It's fine, you can.
All right, and then
this is how you do it. Look at how chill they are. I love this
lovely
type
co-host.
of presentation.
Mic
Let's
check.
go.
Mic check. 1 2 3. 1 2 3.
Sounds
Excellent.
great.
So with that being said,
DM.
guys, why don't you take it away with the intros?
Hi, welcome to Tavern Talk episode. We still have no idea what episode we're on, and we're going to keep up with that trend.
That's the way to do it.
We have with us my lovely co-host, Darth Microtransaction, and the lovely two individuals that is basically the OGs at this point. We got Mark and Jonathan from Path of Exile 2 Grinding Gear Games. How are you guys doing?
Oh, doing great. I mean, it's really good to get back into things again. We had a good break, yeah, I don't know. It's just nice to be back and actually looking at the problems again. As much as it can be painful sometimes, but it's real good to get back into things.
Yeah, disconnected for a little bit, not too long, but just a little bit, and now back, which is awesome. But no, it was a long burn last year, so it was good to get a little bit of a break over that Christmas. But yeah, lots to address, lots to change. Excited.
It seems. It seems like with the break, you guys still managed to get a lot of changes in from the review video we saw. It's fairly substantial, so that's exciting.
I mean, that is for the most part just stuff that we did, last week and this week. The maps, the extra 4 maps, some of those did have some work that was done a little earlier, but for them because we knew we needed more towers and we just didn't get them in. But pretty much all that stuff is just stuff that we're just doing last week and this week. We try to move fairly quickly when we can. The thing now is of course going to be one issue we kind of realized we had is like, okay, how much do we concentrate on fixing problems people have right now, and how much do we concentrate on like the next big kind of content patch? And so that's like kind of the tricky thing we have to maneuver around at the moment.
Yeah, they have to balance.
I guess my feeling is that so long as there's like big problems that are causing people to have like a bad experience, I kind of want to make sure that those get addressed as soon as possible, at least where we can, so that we're making sure that things are in as best a state like some kind of point of stability, so that we can concentrate on having the larger kind of like content patch after that.
That's great to hear. So for this episode or this interview or whatever we're going to call it, we've done what we can to make sure that we let the community get their voices heard. So most of the questions we're going to go through is questions collected almost exclusively from the community. We have a couple light, for some reason, questions and some warrior questions from Darth, and we have some minion questions as expected from my side of things.
Darth
but most
is
of the questions will be taken
fighting
from
for
the
us
actual community.
warriors.
So I'm just going to kick us off so don't waste anyone's time. And we're going to start with a question saying, which of the changes that has been showcased was the team most excited to be able to announce?
Well, I guess that I'd say that like these changes, obviously, while the players are happy with them, we're not exactly excited about them per se, because these are just like fixes to things that are problems, right? So the stuff that we're excited about is the stuff we're not talking about, which is the content that's coming up in the in the larger one that'll have an economy reset and so on. So there's obviously a lot of stuff there, but for this stuff, it's just like really like, okay, what can we do to make sure that people are having a good time? That's kind of the main thing I would say.
Yeah, which is exciting in its own to see how much more we can improve, how many people having a good time. So,
So I mean, that's good, but yeah, really, it's like there's no one thing there where we're like, oh yeah, this is the amazing thing. It's like it's all just like, let's make the game not suck. That's kind of our main goal.
So one of the changes for in-game maps is the changes to, you mentioned monsters, chests, rare monsters. What impact are you guys hoping that this change specifically is going to have in in-game mapping?
Well, I want this. Well, there's a couple things. It is just a general, probably 30% more kind of monsters, items, etc. from inherent maps. You get the thing where now the inherent map is higher value, and thus proportionately the league is less impactful. Say Breach, which is obviously in its own universe of craziness right now. But the idea is the base map is more rewarding, and thus adding the extra content is less necessary for, say, map sustain. The other thing is it will interact with different rolled maps differently. So we tried to do this better before early access began, but again, it should be now certain maps and certain mods that increase the chests, the rarity of chests, the rarity of monsters will have different benefits. So that's kind of cool that I want people to learn that over time and see what's beneficial, what multiplies better, and then you combine those things where you have this map's better for number of monsters, whereas this map's worse for number of monsters because they're multipliers. So like a really small map versus a really large map, actually before they were relatively consistent. Now that large map might have twice as many monsters as that small map, but it has the same density of monsters. So you don't just have big open empty spaces of nothing. So obviously now the number of packs, if you multiply that up, it has a much grander effect on the big map than it does the small map. But the small map is obviously easier to clear, faster to clear. So say if you're optimizing for bossing, you're probably going to try and have be applying more bosses to small maps using the new tablet. Or if you're doing leagues that, more like Breach, you might want smaller maps that way because you're focusing on just farming breaches as opposed to, say, Delirium, or say Expedition favors that doesn't really care if the map is large or small. So having those different kind of axes is really interesting, where you are thinking about that as you go. Now people have to learn that, and that's cool. I actually want people to learn that and kind of post all their details on like this map's really good and this map isn't, and we've accounted for layouts, how fast they are to clear, all of that stuff. So certain maps that were more tedious to clear now have pretty drastic advantages on at least one or two different axes. So they might have a higher number of minimum monsters, rare monsters, higher spawn rate of rare monsters, magic monsters, rare chests, who knows.
There's a lot of that balance that you couldn't really do until you actually had experience playing them, right? Because it's hard to tell when you're just in development and you're not on a real character. Like, is this map actually fun or not, right? And the end game is we've got the least amount of testing, so it really did require, like, okay, some actual proper play and be like, okay, is this map, to really answer the question of is this map good or not? So now when we see that, then we can be like, okay, we need to make this change or that change in order to sort it out. So there's just been a lot of just like sanding off all the rough edges that in-game had by virtue of the fact that it just really wasn't as tested as what the campaign was. Go on.
That all being said, I'd say one thing it has introduced is it has added more bad luck or mistake protection to some degree, because if you would like fully juice a really small bad map, that minimum of bad is now much higher. And so like you all of a sudden now have invested all this wealth into this bad map, you've run it and you're like, I didn't get anything back from it. So the minimum is certainly now much better, which should hopefully protect a lot of people who are falling out of map sustain. Whereas like a lot of the good players who are a bit more observant, a bit more familiar with PoE 1 were just like happily sustaining maps. And so yeah, you had these two ends of spectrum, and hopefully we've raised the minimum now with these changes.
That's cool.
So
I've struggled with map sustain.
Since this was a question for later, but since we're talking about bad maps in particular, something you mentioned here, what is your guys' opinion on the current state of maps in the game? Not so much from a monster point of view, but of a layout of maps. So there are some maps people don't like as much. There are ones people really do like as much. Is your opinion that you need maps, for instance, like Mire, Augury, Val Factory? These are some of the least favorable maps. Do you think you need maps like this in the game in order to more appreciate the more common ones people enjoy? Or what's your stance currently on the map amount of variety that are in the game, put it that way?
I guess ideally, there have been a few adjustments to things like that. Probably not, we're not necessarily going to take every map people find annoying and change it, so that people don't in that way. But certainly there should be balance changes to make it so that they feel at least worthwhile, even if they do have some more annoying layout or something like that. I assume you feel the same way about that.
There's some standout things. Like obviously you shouldn't have the levers that you just can't dodge roll out of and you just die, or the levers are just spawning burning ground on them, right? Obviously this stuff is just objectively wrong and objectively bad, and that will be fixed. But a lot of that contributes to this is the worst map because you go pull a lever and die while doing so. And then there's the ones that are just inherently worse layouts, especially for certain builds. But then again, now using this other thing where it's those maps may now spawn the most amount of rare monsters or the most magic monsters or just the most amount of monsters. You're going to have to go figure some of that stuff out. And some people might like that. People with less, screen clearing AoE-centric builds probably don't mind some indoor, more mazy maps if they're going to get the benefit or feel like they're getting the benefit from,
I'm fine.
More rare monsters. They've got, more single target or a more concentrated DPS or whatever. They don't feel so bad now for running that as opposed to just running the, sand spit where you can just nuke entire screens.
The bad case of this though is definitely the tower map, because it's like you mandatorily have to run that map, and so having that be not great is not a good situation. So hopefully we've addressed that one. That was really urgent to address because it's it's mandatory, right? You can't just skip it. So that one had to be sorted.
Yeah, turns out it's maybe not a good thing where you have to approach a room full of monsters that you don't know what they are and they're super dangerous and you can't see them and it's a narrow bottleneck and you have to run in and just die.
I've never died
obviously the variety helps with that, but also the new version of that map is now based on the top floor tile set, which has got more variety and it's easier to deal with. So that should improve a lot of that.
Better visibility,
exactly. So
more open, less tight bottlenecks. They're still relatively narrow here and there, but much better to clear.
So one more follow-up here, and I'll pass it off to Ghazi. In the reveal, you mentioned that the boss maps, for instance, were supposed to be more common than they actually were. And so this comes to a very common question about Waystone's sustain. So what was your opinion on the state that previously was with Waystone's sustain, as well as do you believe this impact of additional bosses are obviously going to impact Waystone's sustain?
By the way, shout out to No Italics.
Alleviate some of the
Make sure to check out his channel at some point.
That one's pretty interesting because, and this is probably going to be a controversial thing to say, but we don't know that there necessarily is a problem with Waystone Sustain as such. So that means we have to look into, if people say that there is, then that means we have to understand why that is, because I don't think that's the experience that we're having as we're playing ourselves. And so there's always this thing where it's we want to hear what the players say, but then we always want to confirm with our own experience that when we do what they're doing, that we're getting the same experience before we can kind of make a good decision about what a change would be. So I don't know that we've identified why it is yet that players are having problems with Waystone Sustain. And so that's and this will change this obviously because there's more bosses and so on. That's the thing you can do and killing bosses will give you, upgrades and so on. Like that'll help.
We're
with
having
that.
problems with
but I guess I sort of like I
because
feel like we need
drop.
to understand that problem more before we can really
That's
work out
just
what exactly needs to happen.
The sustained problem, Jonathan.
There's certainly more to learn there, but as I said before, the minimum's now higher for sure.
Right. So it can be just people running into bad specific maps that like have specific problems. That,
by the way, I'm pretty sure the names
I suspect it's also just a lot of people struggling with the difficulty in dying, and it's obviously very different if you're dying even in 30% of your maps, 20% of your maps. I mean, even 10% of your maps. It can make that difference. So yeah, there's definitely 100% more to look into there. But I personally, I went to from tier 1 to tier 15 maps in a total of 32 maps, and I've sustained since. And then you see the things where people are talking about map sustain, and I'm like, okay, am I in a different universe? And the answer is probably
in a different universe.
The answer is probably yes, I am in a different universe. But from a purely anecdotal standpoint of my own, I try and I'm going to see how it is for myself. And I'm somewhere else. We need to look more into this somewhere.
That felt very targeted.
We have other people at the office as well, of course, and you get their anecdotal experience. But we need to look at this from a much broader perspective. But either way, what we've just put forward is an improvement to all of that. Higher maximum, sure, higher minimum, and a bit more safety for bad luck. But what it doesn't really account for right now is safety for people dying and failing 50% of their maps or 10% of their maps.
There is a slightly more subtle thing going on, I think, which it's kind of unfortunate how this turned out, but effectively, because you can power through the map tiers really fast, it means that you don't get a chance to find the gear that you would otherwise have as you went through those tiers. And that means that effectively when you do, like you might be playing higher tier maps than what you really should be playing for the amount of wealth that you've found. And that means that your map sustain is bad because you're dying more often because you're kind of playing higher tier content. And that is on us because we need to adjust that so that you that you only start effectively, in order to progress up the tiers, it needs to be more that we need to sort of gear check you more as you go up a little bit to make sure that you've got the gear you need before you're going up the tiers. But this is going to be a really subtle and tricky thing to get exactly right. There's quite a lot to that. And that's kind of more of a thing that we can sort of look at over a bit of a longer period of time because it's going to require some adjustments. But yeah, that's just sort of another one. But there's quite a lot of implications to all of that. And I don't know that we're quite ready to understand exactly what would need to happen for that to happen. But that is kind of one of the issues that we're seeing is just effectively people playing content that's harder than what we would hope they would be playing for the gear that they have, which then causes the deaths, which causes the sustain to be bad. So that's kind of that issue there.
Thanks for the detailed answer. I'll throw it off to Ghazi for the next questioner.
Yeah, next in line, we're actually going to circle back to what you mentioned, Mark, regarding Expedition, not caring about the layout and whatnot, but you also mentioned, I believe it was in the video, right? You mentioned more substantial changes to Expedition coming later. So the question is, do you have any particular examples of these things you're hoping to accomplish with this mechanic?
Yeah, I can't really say what it is, but what I can say is it is intended that every league, sort of, I'd say without promising it, because we're allowed to make exceptions. It is kind of intended that every league provides some sort of access of character or crafting power that is abnormal. And so,
different that you can't get anywhere
different.
else.
Mostly character power here. So aside from the unique items, obviously they can or sometimes don't provide character power that can be attained elsewhere. This is more about something else that's, similar to, say, the instilling your amulet with a notable. It's something that only that provides. It gives you more power than you would have had if you had never done it. And so ideally, every league would kind of do something like that, or provide a crafting avenue that would then give you something like that, or give you more power in general. But yeah, we just kind of have the vendor mechanic where you can do some crafts, and none of those crafts are abnormal. They're not adding extra benefits or mods or anything outside of that. So yeah, we have intention to add something to that, and probably to a lot more of them over time. And as you get new ones that each obviously have this thing in mind, where we're trying to say, how can we make characters feel a little bit more powerful by engaging in that content? But yeah, Expedition just didn't quite get it when we ported it over. We discussed heaps of things, like we could add some more ROG crafts, so to speak, now that, even though it's now 3 out of 4 of them crafts.
It definitely needs something else, for sure.
It just needs something cool, something better, and something not rushed. Which is we were in a position where we were going to rush something, and it's like, hold on, let's not do that. Let's get it right and do it a bit later.
Fair. I like that take.
So Expedition
another question we have is
weak
regarding
sauce
the
for
Arbiter
now.
of Ash now having 6 resurrection or revive attempts, right? And other attempts to, or adding other attempts to other pinnacles over time. I guess the question comes down to why wait with adding extra attempts? To
Ultimately, the reason is just time. So it might even be that in the patch that we do deliver, that some of those other ones are already done. It's just that because the video had to be made last week, and like we were like, are we gonna, like, we knew we would get time to sort out the Arbiter, and we were like, we don't know if we're gonna get time to do the others, so we'll just like promise that one, and then if the others come, then that's just a bonus. But yeah, effectively, there's like a little bit of trickiness around each one to like just work out all the states of everything. Like, I mean, if you're looking at like just as a random example, and this isn't obviously that big of a deal, but it's just, you know, someone has to do it, is like for the breach one, for example, we have to decide like, okay, so we can't really let you have the economy, like you can't reset the whole map because then you'd get the drops from the breach a second time. So then it's like, okay, we have to make sure we put a checkpoint in the thing, and that means we have to like do someone has to go write some code to like make the breach thing work correctly for checkpoints, and you know, it's just like random stuff like that, just little details that just mean that like it'll take a little bit longer to do those other ones. But I mean, we're not talking a really long time, right? We're just like, someone will get to it in the next couple of weeks. It's just, you know.
I'd say King in the Mist. King in the Mist will almost certainly be done because it's an isolated boss fight in a room with nothing else going on. But for the logbook and for the breach one, you have to have some manual intervention, and we have to really make sure that there's none of that, like, you know, respawn at checkpoint at this exact point in time, and all of a sudden you get the loot again kind of thing going on. Because
like what they had with
that
the
obviously
Ninth
can be
Treasure
quite
of Keth.
destructive.
So yeah, it's literally just a time thing. We'll, as I said, we'll do it in the next couple of weeks, just as we, you know, get these things going.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Speaking of Arbiter, a couple questions related to Citadels here, just some fast ones. Are Copper Citadels really the same spawn rate as all the others? That's what happened?
I mean, we generated a bunch of Atlas state and checked that they were equivalent. I mean, I don't know what to so we really were not intending to make a Monopoly game, McDonald's Monopoly game style thing here. It really was intended to be equal. So yeah, as far as we could tell, it was just the just that the boss had that exploding minion thing that like was the damage just busted on that?
Nah, well, maybe, but all of his little attached zombies, like during the phase 1 of the fight, when he summons the sandstorm and you get protected, and you have the zombies coming at you, they blow up after they die. And in the map version, the in-game version of this fight, some logic was missing. I don't know what happened, and those would then explode at the end of the phase 2. So you'd be like, oh, I killed him. You run in to get your loot, and 8 zombies just explode and insta-kill you. And so what you found is a whole bunch of people were just straight up like succeeding at the fight and then just dying straight afterwards. So that accounted for some portion of it. And then he was just harder. Certainly the death rate, even excluding the one-shotting zombies, was just much, much higher than the other two. But yeah, we have now a cheat that generates or simulates generating, like, I think it's 1 billion different blocks, and calculates how many of every map spawned and everything like that, just to test this specific Citadel case. And yeah, everything we could find generates exactly the correct amount of the 3 things. So
speaking
the
of
3 Citadels.
Speaking of spawning Citadels, did you guys happen to catch any of the conspiracy theories related to, corpses pointing in directions, etc.?
It was so ridiculous.
Look at him just laughing at everybody.
Things. I don't know.
All right, just laughing in your face.
See, the thing is, I'm tempted to actually do something weird like that now, just to just to bait the conspiracies. But
he is laughing in the face. It's
just RNG. Like, I did catch
just laughing in your face right now.
Closer to the centers, so there is something to being farther away from your spawn point.
So but basically all that is literally just that there where you start, there's just a radius you have to get to before they start spawning. But after that point, it's just they just spawn the same rate.
RNG.
And we just moved it closer just because since you can't really tell like where the that's like not obvious, right? And the main thing we want to do there is just not have a Citadel spawn like right next to where you start, because that'd be ridiculous. Effectively we just shrunk that down a bit because it was a little bit large. And then the other thing as well is that now that you can see them in the fog, it actually makes them so much easier to find. That we actually intended, we were like, oh yeah, we're going to totally buff the number of these that there are. But after we made the change to seeing them in the fog, it was immediately like, oh shit, there's actually tons of these everywhere. We just weren't seeing them before. Seeing them makes a big difference.
Okay, so moving on, off the topic of Arbiter instead of those here. It mentioned in the video, less bad mods on mobs. Can we get some more?
Oh,
detail?
sorry, it wasn't mobs. That I think because it was in the item section, and maybe you misheard that slightly. But the bad mods thing was talking about items. So effectively, there's some stuff going on. So effectively, what we did, because a lot of people were talking about
Jonathan,
issues with higher tier rares as you get to harder content. And effectively, when we sort of looked into this, we sort of worked out like there were some anomalies around like what happens when mods get cut out on the lower levels, just based on kind of like somewhat random things about like how many top tier mods there are of certain types and things like that. So what we've done is it's not like huge changes, but we've kind of effectively done things like I think accuracy went down a little bit, and there was like I can't remember the other changes.
Accuracy went down, life on kill, mana on kill on weapons at least, and then attributes on hybrid gear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the hybrid gear attributes. And then there was also the bug where effectively high tier rares weren't getting the ability to generate top T1 mods of certain types, which I don't think was actually necessarily as big of a deal as what people might have assumed, but because it wouldn't have affected that many items, but we have fixed it. So, for example, it was just impossible on a T5 bow to ever get attack speed.
Once it was a certain item level.
Once it was a certain item level. So yeah, but you couldn't even get T5 realistically except from high level stuff, right?
You still could
occasionally, but whatever. The point is like there was a few things like that that were going on, and we've effectively just adjusted that stuff, and it should result in generally better rares when you're talking about like high end, like high tier stuff. So we'll just sort of see how that works out. The adjustments are not like mega, but they are there, and they should sort of improve things, I think, a little bit.
And just for clarity's sake for the viewers, when you say top tier, like tier 1, you actually mean like tier 12 or whatever the top tier is, right? Because tier 1 technically is the worst.
Sorry, yeah, it's so annoying that we have like tiers going in reverse directions in different contexts.
You shouldn't have made that change, Jonathan.
Yes, what I mean is whatever the top tier of that mod is, in some cases it was getting cut out. In fact, I worry that even in the article
I don't think they're
going
to talk
say
about
that's actually
Elon.
incorrect.
That's a
so I just need to fix that because I think in the note, like in the article that we posted, it says T1 item affixes, which is actually backwards. So I need to go and fix that after we've done this.
We also need to make this consistent everywhere and sort this tiered situation out.
Yeah, I do have a follow up on that. Yeah, it is sometimes very frustrating dropping something that has a high tier, but I don't know if that is the highest tier. Would it be possible? Like, is there something you guys are considering adding?
I think we are adding a thing that displays on the mod if it is the best tier relatively soon. But again, we need to also just figure out a little bit more around this because we've got this whole T1 versus T random
the
number.
reason why there is resistance to having T1 mean the top one is because then if we add another one later, it changes what all the tiers are, and there was sort of some discomfort around that, but then maybe it's still better to just do that anyway. I don't know. That was the original thinking behind that, but whatever. It might be less confusing if T1 meant... No, because the other thing as well is that map tiers are like the T1 is the bottom one again, and you certainly wouldn't want to reverse that. That would be weird. So yeah, I don't know. Like probably, yeah, whatever. This is just a random small topic, but just one of those things.
Understood.
Yeah.
Speaking of items and quality, one of the most requested additions, item filters, coming to console. So I'm sure many people are very excited about that. Speaking of the topic of consoles, can we expect more quality of life things coming to console? For instance, I very commonly see asked for things like text UI size, etc. Do you have any plans related to quality of life improvements for console?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly need to do more there. I mean, I don't have any specific things to announce there, but effectively we need to make sure that that experience is good. And one thing that I know, this isn't actually technically a console thing, but another thing that we will be doing for people who use controller soon is like the ability to fast swap between controller and the PC UI just by like immediately in game, because that's something I believe there was even an implementation of that. It was just a little bit too dodgy to release on early access start. So we just need to get that sorted and then tested and so that'll be another one. But in terms of just general console stuff, I mean, look, there's just more we can do, right? And we've got our guys on console. They'll be looking into these things and just making changes. The text size one, I do think needs some addressing. It's a little bit tricky because there's kind of a lot of things all through the game that need like futzing around with. So that I definitely appreciate that. And like part of that is literally because when we're in this is kind of bad, but it's like in the studio, we literally have like a big screen and the couch that's near it is like relatively close. It's like an actual real world scenario. People often sit a bit further away, and we probably should have been thinking about that. Yeah. Things like that just need some addressing for sure.
Fair enough.
All right. Putting aside bugs and tuning, that is expected for early access state. What's a question that I was asking about? What are the players' feedback that surprised you guys the most?
Well, I know you were saying, I mean, I guess from my perspective, it's like we had a lot of worries about things being broken. We just didn't know what those things were going to be. But then you were saying before that just the level of brokenness did surprise you as far as like some character builds and stuff, right?
Yeah, like I had my whole like, okay, obviously people are going to find broken builds, but like we escaped millions into tens of millions, and then we escaped tens of millions into hundreds of millions in measuring in DPS, and then we escaped DPS into comets per second, and then like you got to this point where I was like, okay, we're just off the reservation here in terms of just, you know, when you 1 week in and someone's like, here's my 450 million DPS build that hits the Pinnacle boss for 141 million damage and one-shots in the three-player party, and I'm like, well, where are we? Like, what happened?
The thing that I found a little bit sad, and I guess we should have just expected this, is that, like, I sort of expected that the first few times people were playing the Pinnacle boss, that would kind of be a normal fight. But in reality, the first few times people played the Pinnacle boss was just completely like a disaster because like they just had some build that was because to get to the Pinnacle boss the fastest, you also had to have like a ridiculously broken thing going on, and so you just ended up with just like like you don't even get to see the mechanics, and it was just like that was a bit sad to me.
Yep.
Well, hopefully with more lives, people will actually be giving it a shot instead of just selling it off to those people who do one shot it. But we'll see how that goes. But
the tricky thing about this has just been that, like, okay, so we do generally want to not do mid-league nerfs, and there was a period there before Christmas where we were making some changes, but we weren't even considering those to be mid-league nerfs because they still left things in a state that was still like very, very good. Like from our perspective, and like maybe the players would disagree with this, it was kind of like when we nerfed something there, we were still leaving it in a state where it's still some of the best shit ever. And so from our perspective, we were like, well, there'd be no reason to have to re-roll your character after this change because like it's still crazy. So we didn't even really consider those to be mid-league nerfs in the same way. But then, obviously, there's going to have to be some changes because, like, you know, there are just certain things that are just completely ridiculous. But one thing we've got now, and I kind of mentioned it in the video, is that, like, we actually have an understanding now of, like, what a character should look like. And so ideally, when we do our first, like, true balance patch, we should be at the point where we can be like, okay, here's like these like 10 things that need to come down, but then there's also like these other 50 things that need to come up to get to that point, right? So like ideally it there should be a little bit of leveling there that occurs, but we really don't want to do that kind of patch without doing an economy reset because we actually need like to see what really happens when you get a new economy and all that sort of stuff. So, and when I say an economy reset, of course, what I mean is a new league. Like you'll still have the old characters if you want to play them, but all the stuff we're going to be looking at will be on the new economy that, you know, in terms of like how it evolves that way. So, yeah, that's going to be a tricky one. It'll take us a little bit longer. But that is also what we're working on in the background as well, is just like getting all of this stuff to where it needs to be.
So am I hearing that there's no nerfs coming in this patch then? Is that sort of what I'm taking from this?
I mean, there might be a few that relate to things that are just completely screwed, but it is not our intention to do a big nerf patch here. Like, that is not our goal. Our goal with this is, like, fix things that are annoying people and, like, make the game more playable, whereas the goal of, like, the sort of balance patch that's coming a little later would be like, okay, we'll have a new economy. We'll actually do like a proper balance pass where we get all of that stuff like more.
Because you scared everyone with that executioner photo in the Twitter post. I mean, it looked like the guilloutine was about to drop.
Okay, yeah, people look at things
into the ground. All of them.
There's kind of three kinds of nerfs going on. Not on this patch. Just hold on.
Nerf.
I do want to follow up though with the comment on the balance patch coming later, and you want to combine that with a economy reset. So is that you saying that there will be economy resets during early access on a regular basis?
Yeah, so there won't be. They'll be in a new league, so you still get to keep your old characters. But effectively, yeah, absolutely during early access there'll be new leagues. What I don't want to say is like whether or not the league so when I use the word league, people sort of assume that means there's like a league mechanic that comes along with it, and we might do that or we might not. We kind of need to work out what's going on there, but it'll be a new league in the sense that it's a new economy that people can play through, and we'll be introducing significant stuff that would want people to make people replay as well, as doing all the balance stuff and all that sort of stuff. But effectively, we need to do that because if it's, you can't really just make changes to balance like significant ones without screwing people's characters over, obviously. So you need to have some kind of thing like that in order to be able to do that.
Just going back quickly, we have a kind of few classifications of things we do address when it does impact balance, and we are trying to be ultra conservative. But if it is bricking instances, as in it is just absolutely tanking instances, affecting the performance and thus affecting the performance for other users, we almost always have to address it. You can't just let that be. Now we obviously try and reduce the impact on the server, generally because of some sort of infinite loop or anything of the sort like that, or something happening per frame that shouldn't happen, and all of a sudden now,
like if you're getting the server frame rate to be like 1 FPS, then that is not alright, right? Like we have to actually sort that. So that is something that we will do a mid-league nerf to address, but ideally in such a way where it still leaves the build perfectly viable. It's just that it's no longer completely destroying what's going on.
The other things where it does nerf and has an impact is, of course, when there is simply something clearly not working intended. So, like an example of that, which I won't try and pronounce, but the shield that increases effect of your socketed runes and soul cores, and that was just obviously applying to all of them, not the one socketed in itself. That is obviously a nerf. It was never meant to work that way. I don't think that really surprises anyone when that gets changed. It's very clearly not working as intended. So those two we're generally just going to pull the trigger on almost always. Right. We're still thinking like, okay, especially in the performance case, that's like blatantly, our fault, and there is economy there, and then obviously there are people who are going to lose their character builds because of it. Maybe, hopefully not. We try and obviously bring down the frequency or the infinite loop element or the per frame while also buffing the damage, and then we make a note of it or like reassess this later when there's a new economy, and we'll come back and reassess that. But often protecting the instances, protecting the server performance for other users, and obviously fixing bugs are something we're going to do, and so that can have an impact. But just like at this point, preferably for all the other main nerfs where you're just blatantly nerfing someone's build or nerfing a build, we're trying to currently push that towards the economy/league reset kind of point.
All right. It's a very extensive answer. I appreciate that. That's one of the things that makes this very fun for us to do. We ask a question, then we just lean back and let you guys do your thing. I love it. We are going to circle back to what you mentioned as well earlier, Mark. You said coming back to reassess a decision that's been made. And the topic we're going to open up is the two-step verification, security for accounts with certain things that's happened recently. So the real question that we come down to with everything that's going down is, I guess the first one is, was there a data breach at GGG?
All right.
And following that up with, are you going to reassess the decision of two-step verification?
All right. So this is unfortunately really sucks, and I was really hoping we'd get a post about this before we did this interview, but unfortunately we haven't quite finished assessing yet. So there has been a situation where someone got access to an admin account on our website, and we now understand how that happened. And we also understand, we don't fully understand the scope of everything that occurred here, but we're sort of in the process of like looking at logs and so on. And there was a few really shitty things that occurred here that I'm very unhappy about. So the first one, just to say this, is that the thing that happened here was actually kind of the same thing that happened a while ago when through a Steam, effectively a Steam account was compromised through Steam support. So effectively what happened is one of our administrator accounts had a Steam account associated with it. And this was a Steam account that the person who had it attached didn't really kind of know. I mean, obviously they could have checked, but like they didn't really consider the fact that this was like this old Steam account that they don't even use anymore was attached to their admin account. And so effectively what happened was that got compromised through Steam support. So I don't know like all the details exactly what happens there, but effectively what happens is that like they are able to somehow provide like details that they managed to find on someone, like the last 4 digits of their credit card information or whatever, through that they get through some other kind of means, and then they provide enough information to Steam support where they're able to get Steam to change the credentials on the account, which happened without us noticing, because once again this was an account that this person doesn't log into, so there was no they didn't realize that this has occurred. And then another thing. This was compounded by the fact, and this one was really, really crap, that whenever a customer support person makes a change to an account, they there's like an audit log, right, of like all the actions, like the events that they've done. And this effectively means that like when we investigate like, hey, what's happening with this account that got compromised, like we obviously look at the events and see like, hey, was there anything like what happened here, right? Did someone change a password? Was something going on with that? And there was actually a bug where the event for setting a new password on an account was incorrectly in the back end labeled as a note rather than like an audit event. And what that meant was that so notes are things that like customer service can add to people's accounts and they can edit them and delete them. And so the password change thing being a note could be deleted by a customer service person accidentally rather than being rather than being permanently there in a way that no one could change. And so that effectively meant that what was happening is the person who managed to get an account, they were compromising the accounts by setting a random password, then deleting the node afterwards to say that had happened. And so when we would look at accounts, we just wouldn't see this. And so it was like really not obvious to us that what was going on there. So I don't have like full information yet about exactly the extent of everything that happened, but what I can tell you is that 66 notes were deleted. So that would imply that 66 accounts were compromised. Now, it does extend slightly back further than what our log history is. So I think there's like, so we only keep logs for 30 days. And that's like a whole, privacy rules around that stuff means that that's your log retention. Now, there were 5 days before that where the account was compromised, but this is all pre-launch of PoE2. So effectively, there were the 5 days back in November when we don't have logs for, and then after that point, there were 66 accounts that were that had notes deleted. Now, the reason why I am using that phraseology here is because the things were deleted from the frickin' event stream, like we literally don't know what happened here. Like the only thing I've got to go by is the web server logs, which don't actually record like, all the data that's sent in a web request. It's just like the address of the page they went to, right? So effectively we can see like basic information, but because the thing itself that they were doing involved deleting the frickin' records of the fact that they were doing it, meant that like, yes, it's unfortunately very difficult for us to track down full information about this. Now, we are going to be posting a post with like all the information that we can possibly gather that we're sort of still gathering. And we were obviously initially very afraid that there'd been some kind of larger data breach here where like they would somehow had access to our servers or something like that was going on. Like because we had no idea initially, right? So we're kind of like, oh shit, what the hell's going on here?
So it wasn't session
But now that we've
jacking.
understood that the vector was via a Steam account like that, it kind of means that like effectively what they had access to was the same stuff that customer service had access to. And all of that stuff is logged except this one thing that was not like logged due to this other thing. And then since then we've also added a bunch of extra security stuff that honestly should have already been in place around this to sort this out. So
but still no two-factor.
all of that is to say that we totally fucked up here with like security stuff on this account. Like we're certainly not going to have any Steam accounts linked to, like we're going to audit and make sure that there's no Steam accounts linked to any customer service admin accounts any longer. Like that certainly needs to not happen if there's going to be this kind of attack vector. As well as we've added a few other measures that, to just make sure that this sort of shit doesn't happen again. All of that really, really sucks. And especially because, like, as I said, just due to the fact that the stuff about it is deleted, we can't, like, easily find out what even freaking happened.
We're getting from this.
So there's going to be more investigation and
insane.
working out what's happening here. But, that seems to be what occurred.
So just to quickly, for the people that are going to give it like a quick recap, this was a social engineering breach. This was not like a server-side data breach of an admin account. And this is a one-off, one account. It's now a closed case scenario. The viewers do not have to do anything on their side to worry about their information.
So the moment that we realized that something had gone wrong, we just immediately reset all the passwords on all the admin accounts and deleted all the sessions just to make sure that everything was kosher. So from that moment on, there was no more like accounts getting compromised or anything like that.
Sure.
And then now it's just been a matter of us like doing a bunch of log analysis, and it's actually quite like. Because the only way we've got it is the web logs, and it's taking a while just to process all the stuff, and there's obviously a lot of human investigation. Like we just haven't yet been able to prepare a full report about it, but we are going to be posting one hopefully in the next day or two that has all of the stuff about
what
that.
About two-factor
that was just really, really crappy.
Cool.
So then going back to the actual question about two-factor authentication, I mean, in this particular case, it wouldn't have actually helped because it was compromised through our frickin' support interface, right? Except for that, probably it would have helped in the sense that if we had added if there was two-factor auth, presumably the bug about where it didn't get logged when someone changed it wouldn't have applied to that because, it's a new thing that they wouldn't have had the same bug for. So I suppose it would have helped in that sense. But that's the thing with that. So then talking about two-factor auth. So first of all, I'm completely not against two-factor auth in any regard. The only issue with it is that it's easy to implement two-factor auth. What is hard to implement is all the policy around how to recover when people inevitably lose their second factor. And so that's the kind of tricky part to actually deal with. And so like it's kind of one of those things where like, yeah, we will do it, but like we're just not quite prepared yet to be able to do it with all the customer support stuff we would have to do, and like and it's kind of one of those annoyingly deep holes of like, okay, so like someone loses their password, what do you do to verify it? Like, you know, the two-factor auth thing, what do you do to verify this? And it's like, okay, so now you start to have to worry about like what personal information can they give you, and then now it's like storing personal information, and then like what's the GDPR implications of that, and like there's just like it's just like a whole rabbit hole of just like random policy stuff that all kind of like comes around to that stuff. So yeah, effectively, what I will tell you is that we're immediately going to add two-factor auth to all of our support accounts. You can bet on that. And that is not a problem. That is not a problem for us to do there, because the policy around that is like, well, you just like walk in person to the frickin' you know, guy. If you lose it, then you can you can physically deal with that, right? So that one
I think
is
that if users lose their two-factor authentication,
is how we saw that. But
that's a user error.
We will get to it,
I would
and it is a serious
rather have
thing. We definitely want to have this. It's just a question of just getting it done, really, like all the policy stuff around it and all of the like. Yeah, just as I said, it's all support nightmare around how to deal with it.
Well,
I appreciate the extremely vocal transparency about what's going on. I'm sure lots of people here watching appreciate that as well. And we won't grill you about it or
would
anything,
not
so
go into this level
appreciate
of
that
detail.
information.
They would just be
we'll
like,
move on here to a little bit more
no,
fun
that was a
topic,
mistake.
which is upcoming content for the game. So we've been asked, one of the most common questions we've had here is things like roadmap for cadence of releases. You know, you guys originally stated 6 to 12 months for full release, which begs you know the question, how many leagues between? There's 6 classes, so if it's 6 months, it's 1 class a month. You know where I'm going with this. So, you know, can we expect any information in terms of the cadence of releases, upcoming things like weapons, classes, skill gems, etc.?
Right. So the cadence we want to hit is sort of something similar to the kind of league cadence that we've done before for PoE 1. So like that's like I think that it works. Things work the best when you've kind of got like a, you know, like releases that are fairly large that like have a significant amount of stuff in them to actually bring people back and play and so on. So you can kind of expect a similar thing like that. For the actual like what is going to be in each release, obviously I'm not going to talk about that because, you know, we'll save that for the live stream and like, all that sort of stuff. But effectively, yeah, I mean, like that's kind of what you can expect. That being said, there's also a thing where like so we want to be able to do the balance patch addressing the balance issues that we've talked about as soon as we can. But in order to do a patch like that, you need to have enough content in it to be able to make sure that you know, people actually come back and play it and like that sort of thing as well. Like you need to be able to make enough changes and like add enough content that it's actually exciting. So we're going to work towards getting a like a PoE 2 sort of new league with new content in it basically as soon as we possibly can. Like so we're like I can't exactly say a date or anything, but like we're gonna rush for it, right? Like we're gonna really try and do it because we want to get to that point of stability of the balance that we're sort of happier with as soon as we can as well. So yeah, as I said, not going to say a date, but basically just. Look, we work reasonably fast. We're going to try and get it out as quick as we can. Hopefully we get that relatively soon for you guys.
Maybe not on top of
and
Monster Hunter Wilds,
New
please.
Axe is going to be involved in this, but I guess a little extra question to that when we talk about Act 4, 5, 6. Is the plans to add like one act, or are you guys?
Yeah. So this is honestly one of the freaking hardest questions ever, right? Like this is actually something that we've discussed back and forth so many times because. Like, if you're talking about it from a pure storyline perspective and like kind of what makes sense, like, so there would be, okay, so imagine we release one act, right? It's like, how does it fit exactly into having the leveling? Like, do you go like 1, 2, 3, 4 and then like 1, 2 again? Like, that'd be kind of weird. Or like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, or like, do you have Act 4? You can also play Act 1 or Act 4, or like, you know, like it's kind of just weird, right? And like. So, like, from that perspective, it's like, oh, we should do them all at once, like, at some point. But then on the other hand, we're like, okay, if we don't release the acts one at a time, then that kind of means, like, all the content from that we're sort of busy having to work on, we still have to have good releases, right? And so that means we have to have, like, more stuff in what we do release if it doesn't contain an act. So there's kind of this, like, complicated, like, puzzle around this. And it's like, and what we kind of thought, like, there are issues around this, but effectively we're like, okay, well, we're going to have to make Act 4. We have to be making Act 4 in the background right now anyway, right? So we don't technically have to decide what we're doing about this, like, right now. So, like, that's sort of happening anyway. So I guess that is to say that, like, there's still a lot of argument about this fact. And it's honestly such a hard one because I don't think there's a really great answer. Like releasing the acts one at a time would be making content so much easier because we get to immediately utilize all the stuff from that act to like make other content. Like it'll be so much, and like also it just immediately makes a release feel really big, right? So like that would be something that we could do, and it also would be good for our studio because like there's this phenomenon that always happens where like you say, okay, this is when we're making this thing, but if people are not actually going to play it, then like people have a different definition of finished from like, oh, people are actually going to play this versus like it just has to be ready internally, you know. So like for just a production perspective, like I feel like the game will get made faster if we do release the acts, just because it forces us to actually release them and like forces everyone to get it into a really playable state. But yeah, on the other hand, as I said, there's like all these kind of like practical issues with it. So
damned if you do, damned if you don't, huh?
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a tough one. So yeah, I mean, I guess the answer to that is still to come, and we just need to work out what we feel about this one way or the other. So yeah, I guess you'll see when we do our next announcement what we've kind of come up with. But yeah, as I said, in the meantime, it's not like we don't have to just make Act 4 anyway right now in the background. So that's they're continuing to do that as well as all the people on the more sort of balancey side of things working on balance, which will get shipped much earlier. Yeah.
All right. Let's just move on to the next topic to make sure we actually cover these questions. We have a long list.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about a can of worms called State of Magic Find. Now, the perception has been one thing. And I mean, shout out to Slippery Jim for the absolute insanity that he goes through, which is kind of showing that it's fine. So what do you guys think about
it's
Magic
not
Find in its current
fine. I don't agree.
This is a very tricky question. Now, what I will say to start with is that like the way the Magic Find formula works in PoE 2 is literally identical to how it was in PoE 1 as far as diminishing returns and everything is concerned. The difference is just down to what Rarity is giving you as opposed to what it was giving you in PoE 1. Our argument for why Magic Find should be fine in PoE 2 is effectively like we're not doing what happened in PoE 1 where you got like all these quantity mods and all that sort of stuff like that. Like it's effectively the Magic Find in PoE 2 is what PoE 1 had back when PoE 1 was first released, right? Where it was kind of like, and it kind of was fine then. So the argument was, well, why shouldn't it not be fine now? I guess there's another, like compounding with this, there's another contingent of people who would say that like anything at all that affects item drops should just not be a thing at all.
Yes.
And which is like a position you can take. And I don't know that I necessarily...
I do take that position.
Agree with that position, but like, you know, it's another position you can take. So I guess all of that really is to say that like I don't think there's anything about it that's not working as it's intended to work. And ultimately the purpose of something like Magic Find is to kind of give you another axis of build design beyond just like doing the most DPS, which, you know, like that's kind of its ultimate goal. So but I mean that's kind of where it's at really. There's definitely more to look into here though. I don't know if you've got a different opinion.
Not really. I was just thinking the main difference between, say, PoE 1 was you fully saturate into every single item being a unique item.
That's the difference.
Whereas in PoE 2, you saturate into higher tier rares. You actually cannot fully saturate into unique items. It is impossible. So yeah, it certainly holds different value. I don't know how. But then again, I suspect a lot of the audience who are finding Magic Find to be a problem would find it a problem in both games, which, again... completely fair perspective to take. I don't know. There's a little bit more to look into here for sure. Like we come back from holiday and we're like, all right, let's fix everything we can in a week. There's this list of like 100 things and we pick what we think is the most impactful 10. And so, yeah, there's a lot of these things that are just outlying on a list for us to really actually look into and investigate more and see, you know, what part of it people are liking and not liking. Because, you know, even though you had Slippery Jim do this, you know, the great service, there'll be a lot of people who just disagree with that. He says it's fine. There'll be a lot of people who disagree with him as well. So yeah, we just need to look into this a bit more honestly to get a better conclusion. But personally speaking, I don't think it's a problem currently. But I might change my mind as well upon reading all of this and looking into it more. So we'll see how it goes.
So a follow-up...
I don't know if you... Okay.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. You can continue.
No, you go for it.
Sure. So a follow-up to this is... Okay, so the state of Magic Find is a question. Specifically, do you have a belief on how you believe it's influenced the economy? I'm seeing a lot of comments sometimes when I'm live, people like Magic Find's the reason, inflation's the thing, etc. So what is your guys' belief in terms of how much Magic Find is actually making an impact in the current economy?
Actually, there's another difference from PoE 1, actually, of course, is that Magic Find now increases the tiers of currency you find.
Yeah.
And that's the problem! That's a massive problem.
I don't honestly think that we have an informed enough opinion on this topic, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, but that is one of the problems, 100%.
I don't think it's been our primary concern, like, this week, because of the fact that, like, there's other things that we think, like, we really wanted to make sure that the actual play experience is prioritized as the main thing. Like, that's the kind of, our focus right now. Which, I mean, obviously, this affects it, but it's kind of like something where, like, it's a slightly longer term concern, so it's something we need to definitely investigate more. But yeah, it was really like that map playability and, like, making sure that, because, like, I mean, when people are dying to things that they think are bullshit and stuff like that, that's kind of like something that we were more concerned about. So yeah, that's I would say we need to definitely do more. We need to form an opinion about this before we can say more about it, I think.
How about I phrase a question like this then? In PoE 1, item quantity was removed, which affected currency. In PoE 2, you now bake that into
I see what you mean. Yep, that's a very good point.
What is the reasoning for reintroducing quantity that you made a decision to remove in PoE 1?
I don't think that we looked at that as reintroducing quantity, but you are correct that it does increase the quantity. Well, okay, it's not that it increases the quantity of currency; it increases the type, the tier of the currency you get, which you would look at that as quantity because, like, you don't care about, like, whatever transmutes are dropping. You only care about the higher ones, and so as far as you're concerned, that is quantity. So I would say we just didn't really look at that as quantity, but you're not wrong about that, right? That is true.
30 times the
well, it's certainly going to be a problem if it is perceived as that having enough rarity is the only way to thus have enough currency to, say, roll your maps effectively.
It absolutely
and also
is.
have enough
It
to
100%
spend
is.
on gear and whatnot. Like, that's certainly a problem, in which case some adjustments probably likely do need to be made. But again, we're just speculating now. We need to look into this a heck of a lot more in order to get an actual informed decision there.
That's fair. I do have one last follow-up on it, and it's a discussion we had 4 or 5 years ago with Chris Wilson, and the topic was actually about currency drop as well. And the comment was that the numbers were fine on GGG's side. The numbers looked fine. It is accurate. You are dropping more currency than ever. But the numbers didn't matter when the perception in the community is the direct opposite. So how do you think about tackling that specific conversation when the perception is completely opposite to what's seemingly the reality of things, right?
So are you saying that the community perception is that currency doesn't drop enough?
Yes.
It's the perception is that rarity is a mandatory stat.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Well, absolutely.
Because
right?
it is.
Look, if the community feels that way, we should absolutely look into it and do more about it, right? Like, but bear in mind that,
by the way, it absolutely is mandatory right now.
I sort of often say, like, when the community has a problem, this is an invitation for us to understand the problem and then for us to address it in the way we want to address it. And that way isn't necessarily exactly what the community is saying, but it's just effectively like, I do want to keep doing things until the community is no longer unhappy about it. But that may not necessarily look exactly like in the form that they're expecting.
You want to have around 100%
we have to look more into this.
right
That's absolutely the case, right? And we can tell that because of the fact that people are unhappy. So yeah, we will look into
it
more
absolutely
into it.
is mandatory.
So,
unless you don't want to get currency, it's like if you don't want to get exalted orbs, then yes, it's not mandatory. If you don't want to get currency,
the next portion of the questions here.
It's not mandatory. But if you want to get currency, it 100% is mandatory.
What are your guys' feelings currently on the state of maces? How do you want mace skills in particular to function in Path of Exile 2?
Anders,
obviously,
I literally
they're very
do
long
not
cast
believe
times.
I
Movement and
literally
mobs
do not
can be
believe you, buddy.
very quick. You can get stunned, interrupted. On the tree as well, there's many nodes that literally reduce like attack speed in order to gain other things. So more or less, Warrior's in a position where a lot of the people feel like it's clunky, too slow for the current in-game play loop, or Warrior feels like maybe the first class design when the vision of PoE 2 was fairly slow. So what is your guys' response as to the state of mace skills, and where would you like to take it?
Well, a first question I would have for you is, do you think it's a problem during campaign or only in endgame?
I would say it is
a problem
more specifically a
during both.
problem in an exponential ramping as you continue the game until you hit a point where there's Pinnacle bosses, and then you can kind of one-shot Pinnacle bosses with some of the setups currently. So there's a mid portion of the middle to later in-game in which it feels like a problem, specifically because you have things like volatiles that actually track you, and if you stay in position, you're heavily punished. So it seems counterintuitive to the design of some of the mobs.
I do think that there is a problem in game here. I'm not exactly sure what we need to do about it yet, though. I'm glad to hear you say that it's an in-game issue and not a campaign issue, because I have to say that my experience playing Warrior through campaign is actually that it's fine. But I did hear a bunch of people talking about that as if that was not fine, and I think that it is. Like, I think, or at least I can't reproduce the issue during campaign if that's the case.
It's not fine during
So
campaign.
really, it is more of an in-game issue, and I don't know that I've got a solution for you right now.
It's miserable.
But yeah, like we do need to, like, once again, it's one of those more subtle things that we need to look into, and I suspect that the big balance patch will be looking at that a lot more. There is something about the warrior that doesn't scale in the same way that some of the other classes do, I believe. But
because everybody hates.
We sort of need to
warriors,
understand what the other classes
happening.
end up looking like as well, a little bit, to understand that as well. But yeah, I don't know if you've got any more different opinions about that.
Well, I mean, the attack speed is a big part of it, right? You obviously have, that is a multiplicative axis that every other cast speed or attack speed is a multiplicative axis every other, or I guess comet trigger speed that every other class is getting, and the warrior has a deficiency in that. And even if you were to get it, yes, obviously there's the fixed attack times which don't scale. It's probably a combination of those are too punishing, or there's too much of them, and there's not enough attack speed available.
There's too much animation commitment.
It'll be somewhere in that
on
region for sure, where we have to make some adjustments, and it probably won't even be that drastic to get it to feel right. And of course, like, it is easy to compare it to, especially, I know you said more like late mid to mid end game thing, but like when you look at the like top end, it's very easy to compare it to the absolute insanity that is, like, you know, Pillar of the Cage God with Hoa and all of that, which is just ridiculous right now. It's very easy to compare it to that and be like, well, Warrior will never be viable. But there are also a lot of quite good end game warriors that are certainly being played, and you know, I don't want to certainly make it seem like it's completely useless.
You mean the energy shield ones?
People using maces, not just people who
you
are
mean
doing
the ones using energy shields?
A notable example. He's like level 99 in SSF.
You mean
but
Crips minion
build?
build?
Ice Tech, which is very highly speculative to be nerfed, right, in order to make it feel good. So while I would agree there's people that are doing it, I would also argue there are people that are doing it as a masochist in order to be like, I'm a warrior guy, I'm going to do it regardless.
There are also others, maybe not that advanced and not that far up in terms of her level. But yeah, sure, understood. Like, it's certainly on the weaker end at the end game, like, without question. That being said, I don't think it would take too much to get it there. But yeah, again, it's part of this massive balance, you know, recalibration we didn't need to do now that we've seen the state of everything.
Right.
Warrior or mace skills are certainly on the ones where you're going to do a lot more bringing up than you're going to do bringing down. You know, aside from things like, you know, the Hammer of the Gods, just in one shot with bleed and then the boss is dead and you don't do anything, right? You get those anomalies out there where it's like, yeah, they're going to die in one shot no matter what. You know, things like that aren't going to be buffed necessarily, but
fair enough.
There is more to buff in the mace spectrum than there is in most of the other things, I'd say, yes.
So that answers the offensive spectrum for the warrior. Now let's talk about the defense.
Yes!
One of the things in the reveal video was armor, for instance, is getting fixed or buffed,
okay,
I should say. And we'll talk about that
Tell us.
in a moment.
I wouldn't. One of the reasons we didn't dwell on that too much is because I wouldn't want people to think that that's more of a change than it is. Like, we are doing a bit of a buff to armor, but it's not like the hugest deal. I think there is more we have to do. Like, there's more complicated stuff we have to do with armor, I think, to make it
Time to reroll,
more
boys.
But there's a lot of arguments about
Warrior's
this.
dead.
One, because it is like, yeah, I'll just say that. There's a lot of arguments about like how exactly this should be addressed. One concern that we have, which is probably totally out of left field as far as what the players would say, is that we don't think that there's enough of a difference between the big hit and the small hit. There's a number in the formula that is different in PoE 1 than it is in PoE 2. That results in the armor being the difference between a small hit and a big hit in PoE 2 and PoE 1. It matters more in PoE 1. But in addition to that, so we actually think that PoE 2 might be wrong in this regard, and we need to change it. But in addition to that, there's also a thing that's happened where like white monsters can hit harder in PoE 1 and PoE 2 than they did in PoE 1, and that means that the thing that armor is supposed to like, because like part of the intention with armor is it's like, okay, like when you're talking about like big boss hits, like it has less of an effect than what it would have off
then active
like a bunch
blocking
of small
should
hits.
work.
But sometimes the small hits from a white mob are not even that different from what a boss hits you with, and so this is actually meaning that the sort of the idea of armor being based on the damage hit is kind of got like a few issues that we have to deal with. So I don't know if you've got any more thoughts on this particular topic, but it is like something that we have to sort of worry about a little bit.
It's again one of these things I do need. I mean, I hate coming in here so unequipped, but again, it's just the timing with the holiday and all that, with all these things where it's like have to look into, but that is the nature
Reroll,
of it.
boys.
I mean, most of,
It's
especially once there's an
reroll
actual
time.
released product, it's like a good.
You guys remember the Will Smith
50%
video?
of our time goes into
It's
having to
rewind
investigate
time.
and look into live operations problems like this.
So we are buffing a little bit of armor a little bit on this patch for like to because there are some issues there.
Warriors,
but honestly, the full solution for
reroll.
armor is going to have to be more complicated, and we're going to have to sort of work out some stuff around it. It's
cut him.
There's definitely something that I think there was another thing as well is that like the other defenses tend to have like extra mechanics that are easier to access than what armor has. Which is another sort of side thing, which is like not entirely obvious when you're designing it initially. So it might be that there's more like supplementary things that the armor, like that strength characters effectively need to have around defense, and so like stuff like that can kind of matter a lot. So
like Wind Dance is universally just better than Scavenge Plating, as an example, if those are meant to be paired. One is just like you have it, and the other is I have to armor break,
goddamn totems.
Then on bosses, it's much harder to sustain. So we've made changes there, of course. We did buff the armor. I'd say it's in the. It's obviously hard because of the big hit, small hit, but it's probably in the like 15% more effective kind of region. Our changes in 011. And then, a lot of it is also like, okay, if you consider, that evasion also applies to damage mitigation from Invoker. You got a lot of things going on with acrobatics, which turns evasion into arguably, I mean, sure, it penalizes your evasion, but like it then kind of gives you almost as much PDR against certain hits as a lot of armor, and then you have a lot of very, very strong defensive, with Grim Feast and Energy Shield, and so like it's not only armor is weak, it's also that evasion and Energy Shield have some extreme strongs that are going on. Not to say, these are all going to be nerfed. I'm just saying there's some meeting in the middle that we need to do for sure.
Paint. So to give you a feeling from, like I played Warrior 90 first. That was the first thing I did, and I would enjoy Warrior as an archetype the most. Would you say it's a fair statement to say the Warrior and Mace skills and, sort of that side of the tree in particular is in a state where it has the worst of all of them? So it has the worst of the defenses and armor. It has the worst effective HP in terms of life, and it has basically the worst offensive capabilities as well. So you could see why I'm feedbacking so hard in relation to this archetype.
Man, that's a brutal savaging, but I suppose I can't necessarily disagree with any of those.
You're goddamn right, you can't disagree, Jonathan. You can't do anything
about it.
The
next topic, then.
It's
over.
over.
Statements on it.
Oh, what do they have?
You have shields.
Yeah, it is. You are right that it effectively
They can't
falls in that way.
block boss attacks, so they're worthless. We also have
moving forward here,
penalties.
we have charms. So I saw that there were some notable changes in relation to charms. I thought it was a great change to be able to see when they're actually being activated, as well as the charms that are there as well. So some clarity things in relation to charm. I don't know if I saw whether or not charms in particular are actually getting tweaked in terms of number side of things, or if it was just some transparency related to charms. But how do you guys feel about?
We're not tweaking numbers in this patch. However, there's definitely something not right about charms as far as like the usefulness goes and all that sort of stuff. Like we need to do something. I don't think we've decided what it is yet, but it's clear to us at this point. Like, so charms came in like super late, and I just don't think they're quite like working out as well as I'd hoped. Like they just need something else, but we don't quite know what that will be yet. But we did want to at least make, like, one of the issues they did have is like you couldn't even tell when they helped you. So that certainly wasn't helping the case for them. So we can at least fix that. But there probably does need to be more stuff done with them, I think. I think it comes down a little bit to like how much do ailments matter against the player, and that's sort of something that
there's a few other ones. Like there's the one that's like unaffected. The next time you get slowed, protect you from slows, and honestly, a lot of the debuffs applied by monsters haven't been correctly classified as slows. And so it doesn't even work against them, and like there's a little bit of things like that where
I wasn't
it's
aware
like,
of that one.
it's just kind of a bit bad. But there's a balance there of like, okay, most people have one slot, and then you got these mandatory mods to get more. But I don't
think you get enough charm slots. Just like I feel like you barely find belts with the extra slots, to be honest.
I agree.
I mean, we really
absolutely
just didn't finish. I mean, we increased the weightings. We've had patched that in since release. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Can't remember what patch it was in. But
no,
honestly, we're not all the way there yet, for sure. It's one of those things where it's not like ruining experience for players. At least it's like, you know, just an underwhelming thing that needs some love for sure. So it's not exactly number in the top 10 of the hit list, but like without a doubt, I would expect to see improvements around there in the future.
Following up on the charms there, any thoughts regarding adding more charm slots for uniques? It feels really hindering to equip a unique when it comes to the topic of charms.
So this is the whole, like, if you have a unique belt, you only have one always.
Yeah, you know, that's not a bad idea.
I also just want to add more slots outside of unique, so more on the tree and other ways to get them as well. So you don't necessarily have to, because like there's nothing. I think at the time we had it that like you couldn't have more than 3. Like internally it was implemented that way, and now it's like you could have 50 slots, plus 1 slots, but you'd only have 3, obviously. So we can give away a lot more +1 now and plus whatever we want all over the place. But yeah, I mean that is a way, yes, that some unique should have it, and probably more on the tree, more in other ways. I have to have a look at it, but yeah, there's no harm in it now, at least.
All right, we're gonna move over to another topic, which is you know, speaking of belts and trading the unique belts, for example. State of crafting and future plans is also involved. So I'm going to start with crafting and future plans you have there, and then we're going to talk about trade. So the
let's talk about the
crafting is very different from PoE 1. The perception, again, to go back on that in PoE 2, is that you're not actually crafting unless it's rog-pog crafting. You're actually just pulling the arm on the vendor machine, on the gambling machines. So what's the state there and future plans?
I don't know that there's a huge amount we can say about this right now.
Ooh, the silence. Ooh, that hurt.
Unless you've got any particular thoughts that you think
that hurt, Jonathan.
Can go into. I mean, like one thing, of course, is that PoE 2 just has less crafting systems than PoE 1, just due to the fact that we add these typically with leagues and so on. So there's just less going on, which means that if you're like a PoE 1 player, then you know you're going to see less complexity there, for sure. But I don't think that's exactly what you're getting at, right? Like I guess there's some theory. I mean, effectively what you're saying is people want more determinism, right?
Yes.
Which is like a continuous, endless thing that like people.
There's a fine line there.
It's a push and pull,
We're on the certainly more on the slot machine side of that line, like without a doubt, obviously, right?
You're more on the slot machine.
And there's more we need to do, I would say, to get towards that line. But that's our line that we determine. Not that I know how to describe that, because there's plenty of people who are just going to be like make everything fully deterministic all the way.
Yes.
I mean, before we released, we had for a while a system that involved like deconstructing mods and then putting specific mods on items and so on. And like we just kind of like no one. Like with a system like that, we were never able to get it to the point where both people who played the game were happy and like we could be happy as far as like what it would let you do. And that, like, there's still something along those lines we might be able to do one day to kind of work that out, but we just kind of haven't really hit it yet. The socketables were kind of supposed to be the thing that was you had full control over, that's like determinism. And so that, like...
Which has a lot of room to expand over time.
Sure.
Like,
so there's more stuff you can do there. But I guess because people see that as supplementary, they don't even necessarily see it as part of the crafting system, which is kind of interesting. Like it sort of replaced the crafting system in a way, but then, as I said, people don't really see it as part of it. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess the thing is we just have to find a way to do more things that make people feel like they have more control without actually sacrificing the without making it too easy to just get the best shit, which is obviously always the concern, like making sure that there's still enough room for there to be items that are significant, like that are better than other items. So I mean, that's kind of where we're at, I suppose.
The other thing, of course, being it is important that to make sure as we add more of this determinism or get towards that line, that we don't then just immediately devalue all item drops on the ground, right? Because that creates a different problem when now all of a sudden you don't really care about what you're finding, or you're only caring about normal items you're finding, or you create a different problem by doing that for sure.
And there is an argument certainly by people internally that PoE 1 got to the point of that being a problem, where you no longer cared so much about what was on the ground because crafting would always get you something better. Like that is a concern for sure. But But yeah, I guess that's kind of just our overall, just like nebulous cloud of thoughts on this matter, without really getting into too many specifics, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if you've got anything else you want to say about it.
Well, that being said, if we add more, we're adding something to Expedition, we don't know what it is necessarily or what it will do to the thing, you know, and then we're adding, you know, what I would say, you know, greater essences are too rare right now. And
I found one today. I found a greater essence today.
I guess like there's certainly room to expand on the Omen system to do more there. Of course, people would argue then they don't want that to be the core crafting system to be gated behind ritual as opposed to core drop, which is then another consideration to make. And you get this cascading series of questions and stuff we need to answer, of which, you know, need to think about it more and look more. But yeah, certainly there is the feedback of like, the crafting is too slot machiney, is something we're listening to and we have seen, and it is, I'd say that is more towards our top 10 list of things to discuss and solve sooner than later.
Right.
I think that deterministic crafting is always something that's very sought after and popular, but I feel like I might be out of terms here, but my own personal perspective, I'll say that, is not the lack of deterministic crafting per se, it's lack of options to craft with, because the slot machine crafting, we have that in PoE 1 as well. It's called Exalted, it's divining, and you know whatever we're doing with the items. Harvest. It's not deterministic crafting. Yeah, exactly, harvest. It's not deterministic crafting that's lacking. It is options to do something with the actual items, because right now you drop an item and what you can do is annul it or exalt it, or you can pop some chaos orbs. And the meta crafts, which are, you know, behind the omens, that's a different topic which we're going to tackle in a bit here. We talk about trading, but the crafting has less to do with deterministic approaches, but rather giving us options to work with on an item to make us actually craft it, even if that means, you know, RNGing the next slam or something.
Right. And if that's the case, then more content will get you that, because
that will just that will solve itself over time.
Right. Because as we just add more stuff during early access, there's just going to be more and more of those kinds of, you know, crazy systems.
But we'll make sure that, like, I say over time, it's not like there's something inevitable about it for sure, but because it is a bigger problem now, we would make sure that we try and ensure that as we're adding more content, it is leaning towards adding more options there and solving these problems that people have, as opposed to just like, I will do something cool and maybe it does and maybe it doesn't. So we'll have a lot more problem solving, designing, you know, content created by more towards solving the problems, as opposed to, you know, when you're at a point where you have so much content, a lot of the time you can be like, what are we going to do? Let's just make something cool and awesome. Whereas here it's going to be like, let's look at problems to solve and create content that comes from that. So there's like kind of two ways of coming up with the content, and certainly this is one that will be a problem that we're looking to try and solve by doing that, for sure.
That's fair. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but following up to the state of trading, I mean, obviously we have trading being in its state that it is, but there's the volatility problem of the market's economy being player-based. For now, we have a golden standard of trading divine orbs, which quite literally holds close to zero value in terms of actual player usage outside of a handful of specific unique items, and is only is representative of trade power.
Rarity
in the community.
caused this.
And since there is no natural divine orb sink, which exalted orbs have, for example, they just continue going up, and the inflation is just rampant at this point.
So, I would have thought that if there was no divine orb sink, then the value of divines would go down rather than up. Like, presumably, if the value of divines is going up in other currency, then it's the other currency that there's too much of rather than the divines.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, like, they become the golden standard, and since no one's using them, we get a higher quantity of them. And the result of it is that now, since that is the item people are using, or the currency people are pricing their items off, they're now, you know, one rare, one life pair of boots with 10% movement speed now cost 50 divines, if I'm going to use some exaggerated examples.
Okay, so you're talking about the price in divines is going up as opposed to the price of the
divine is
the value of a divine is going up.
The item value,
yeah. Sure. Well, I mean, there's nothing I can kind of initially go into with this other than just that, like, yeah, we just have to look at this and work out what we're going to do to use to sync these things more. The intention with divines is that you'd sync them into making, like, if there's enough, like, things where you want to reroll mod values on, which, you know, like, uniques ideally. Like the implication of that is that there aren't the uniques that people are wanting to roll to get good values on, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's the reason.
Some not enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have enough unique items.
For sure, for sure.
We need a lot more. Which is another goal we have, of course. But I mean, so yes, there's not enough uniques, let alone enough uniques to be using divine orbs for and of course
the thing in PoE1 where things were priced and that currency can help, but we don't have anything quite like that, I suppose. I mean, look, if that's a problem, we'll just like find a way to sync them, I suppose. But ideally, if everything's working correctly, they'd be syncing themselves due to the fact that there's enough things you want to reroll values on, and like uniques that you want to reroll values on. I'm actually curious to know whether people are even really bothering with that. Like, are people actually bothering to reroll unique values?
I guess some, but not many.
Right, not many.
Not many.
Astromentus.
Yeah,
that's like the two main ones, I think. Like, no one's gonna pop a divine orb on Avengers Gamble, so it's like. That's literally gambling. But like in PoE1, we have the option of metacrafting being a currency sync for divine orbs. Former Exalted. So it creates this natural flow, but also provides this crafting method for people to actually kind of help the state of crafting that people are looking for. Right now, they're omens, and because of this type of inflation happening, they are so far away from most players that like. Even players that plays a lot, I haven't bothered myself. I played a lot with a subathon and everything. Like I haven't touched an omen because they're too pricey to use. Like it's a very select few players that even engages with them because of how priced they are, and that just separates a lot of crafting from even a larger player base.
One other point of this is it might tie into a previous discussion we had about Magic Find influencing the economy.
There you go. Thank you, DM.
So
yes,
I know that's one point
exactly
you're going to look at previously too. So I think these two probably tie in together here.
I don't know that I've got anything particularly like smart to say about this right now, honestly. Though that would be the
we
issue.
are at least making omens more common, so hopefully
yes,
that
but I mean
to some degree. But I think we then also need more uniques and a lot more uniques, obviously, and a lot more uniques that would have divine syncs, and then I suspect the answer also is additional syncs of currency. Because I mean, I suspect it's a bit of everything here.
Okay. So we'll move on here. We have a significant amount of questions left. So I'm gonna try to speed up the cadence of these a little bit here as we're about maybe halfway through, but well over halfway through the interview. So we're gonna talk a little bit about state of in-game and state of league mechanics here. So I'm specifically going to go into league mechanics first here. So some league mechanics, essences, strongbox, to name a few, feel a little bit like noob traps. So I was kind of hoping to hear where your guys' thoughts are in relation to some of the underutilized ones. We talked about Expedition already, so you don't necessarily have to go into it, as well as the state of Breach. Breach feels notably like the one people are enjoying the most. Do you feel like that one's overtuned? And the other one, I mean, I don't know anyone who actually does strong boxes. So where do you want those and essences in particular, especially when it comes to the how often essences are not really rolling greater essences. Like you don't really see greater essences very often. I actually saw more in the campaign than I have in any of my in-game maps. So I'm curious about kind of league mechanics as it ties into in-game in particular.
Yeah, I mean, look, we just need to do a lot of balance here, and that's really all it is. And that once again just comes down to the relative lack of testing that in-game had before launch compared to other content. So yeah, there's just a lot of balance to do here.
It was meant to be more that essences, strong boxes, and like precursor artifacts are like the things you find that you can't anticipate coming. I understand you can spec into them, that is a thing, but it's meant to be more like a thing you find that you don't know is coming, whereas the I know we refer to them all as leagues, but like let's say the ritual, expedition, etc., the ones you know are coming and that you're investing into. So you have these two categories where you have the ones you are adding and investing into, and then you have the other ones that are meant to be more exciting random finds. And it's safe to say, obviously, you know, there are so many essences that finding non-greater essences isn't giving you that dopamine, especially in in-game. And finding a strong box is like anti-dopamine right now, because it just makes you feel bad, because you're like, oh, this, and you just want to run away. So, look, it's safe to say that those failed at achieving that goal, hence why we have to make some improvements to them for sure. But I want to make sure that there's those two layers of things, where one's the stuff you predict is coming, you can see the icons, you can apply them with the there's the base types of the precursor tablets to apply, and then you have the things where it's like, I hope I find an essence, because it's like, I hope I get the good one that's worth, way too many of those divine orbs. So yeah, having both layers is important. So yeah, and we'll continue to add ones at that upper level that get a tablet, and then we'll continue to add ones that are more at that random find excitement in the map that you don't know is coming. Because you don't want to put it all on one layer where you know everything that's coming necessarily, because then nothing is exciting. And you can do exciting within that to some degree, but not always.
I mean, really it all is to say that like there are some of these that just aren't as good as the others and we just have to improve them. But what I will say is that the breach monster density is probably a little on the high side. Like it's actually to the point, by the way, where like we get a bunch of error messages in the logs for failing to spawn monsters in breach because they're packed so tightly together that they don't even spawn anymore. So there's actually like there's an issue there that we have to do something about.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Like so actual hundreds of error logs of just like cannot fail to place monster due to lack of space.
Yeah. So like that there was a joke if we could release breach monster reduce breach monster density by 20% and the players wouldn't even see it because it would just result in less error messages for us. So, you know, like there are actually some stuff that needs to be sorted out there. But we don't want what I don't want is people to feel like, oh, we're just like nerfing that into the ground or something like that. We definitely don't want to do that. But some of the other league mechanics just need some addressing to make them, better.
I'm joking.
They just need to be better.
No,
and it'll just come down to us like experiencing them and seeing if they if they suck, we'll improve them. And like right now, I know that Strongbox has got the most improvement in this patch, and I know Essence has got like at least some adjustment to make them a little bit less crap. And there's probably a few more adjustments.
That's more about the combat than the itemization. That's something we still need to look into.
Right. So there's just stuff like, we just need to improve all that stuff until it's good, right? Simple as that, really.
Fair enough. How do you guys feel about the progression of players entering into mapping, going from map tier 1 to you're doing tier 16s, and then into Pinnacle bossing? How do you feel like the pacing in there? They give you, one reason I bring it up is in PoE 1, we have like the quest invite version of boss fights that will happen at different iterations. So you probably know where I'm going with
So we're not really happy with how that is right now. Like we're not happy with how the quest. The quests that effectively we give you are just like do X many of tier Y maps. And honestly, like we can do a lot better. That's kind of a larger. It's something that I would have loved to be able to just solve instantly, but like it does need some more work. And I think there's a few different areas of this. So one of them is that like just the way the progression feels just isn't as good as PoE 1 in some way. That's kind of slightly hard to define. Like in terms of just like the feeling of like the progress you're making just isn't quite right. So I think we need to do more. Like there might be some changes we have to make to how the Atlas works to make that better.
Certainly want some bosses between those points.
Yeah. Like it just needs more of a feeling of
random ones. I mean like actual ones. Still along a series of objective-driven kind of narrative-involved things where you're getting your.
This is good. This is very
it's still an
good.
end game, not Pinnacle. Boss at tier 6 and maybe at tier 11, and there's the quest versions, and you're doing those, and then maybe there's
urgent
Uber
quests and
versions.
Monster Hunter.
There just needs to be more going on with regard to how that progression feels. So that's one element. So the next one is that the tutorialization of the end game is not really there. Like we need to do more around this so that like it actually sort of eases you into end game a little bit better. As far as like if you're a new player, like we kind of just throw you in the deep. Like we fixed a lot of things about the introduction to the game through the campaign, but then you get to endgame and it's kind of like we don't really do enough to kind of really ease you in there, I would say. And then I did have a third point, but I can't remember what it was now. There was something about that. Oh yeah, that's right. And it sort of ties in a little bit to what I was. This kind of was covered a little bit with what Mark was saying just a second ago. But like the way that you progress through the tiers, like you can go through the tiers too quickly and then you kind of get left behind with like what rewards you should be getting, and like in order for us to fix that we kind of need to make each tier more meaningful with regard to what you have to do there and what's going on. And so there'll probably just be more there at endgame just to kind of make it feel like more of a progression and more of a more and that can include more storyline elements and more things like that. There just needs to be more basically just there to make that progression feel better. The game does take a bit of a turn suddenly when you get to endgame of like it doesn't really feel like it really does feel very different from campaign to end game. And as I said, it's just a matter of sort of easing that transition, making that a little bit better and smoothing out that more for sure.
I want to hone into 2 points here. Because you talk about it feels like a different game, sort of a different sense of progression at least. We have to go from campaign into action. This is a question we're going to ask later, but it seems a good time to ask it now. Is that intended, and do you like that as a design principle? Because I've seen people say that they really like the campaign, and me myself, I like the difference, but I've seen people state that they really enjoy the campaign pacing, then they get to maps and they feel like it starts blasting, it's almost a different game at that point. So I think the audience would love to know how you feel about that difference.
Oh my God, thank God, yes.
It do actually, you do need to get to the point at some point where you feel incredibly powerful. However, I would say that there is like a bit of a switch flip right now that's kind of not quite right. Like there's definitely something that ain't right going on there.
Well, there's two. There is the character power side. I mean, a lot of people are getting to endgame. Excuse me. A lot of people are getting to endgame and they aren't just becoming gods all of a sudden, right? A lot of people are struggling and falling off and can't sustain maps and are dying and it's not like you get to endgame and all of a sudden.
It's not just because I died, Mark. You don't have to keep bringing it up.
A lot of people are getting to endgame and then are just lost as to what to do, right? Like a lot of players really like to be told exactly, here's what you do, here's what you do, here's what you do, here's your next objective, here's the thing to look forward to. And something just like complete 10 tier 1 maps is not a fun objective, right? That's just like, okay, sure, I'll do that. Where we could do that a lot better, right? Go to this place, travel here, do this exact thing, discover this, do a tower, run this breach, all these things we can have obviously way better objectives and ones that we could still design. And you're getting your passive points for each, and you're like, okay, the next thing it wants me to do is this exact thing, not just, I've completed my 10, now it just wants me to complete tier 2 maps. I see. I'll just keep going, sure. So there's no whereas the campaign's very story, it's like, go kill this boss, get here, and you got NPCs talking to you and everything, and then all of a sudden it's just, now I'm killing stuff, ticking up this ticker, and, a lot of people probably aren't really getting into, based on the tutorialization, they're not really getting into the towers, the tablets, all of that stuff, and then they're just also possibly finding it a bit too hard, and they're dying, and so it's not as friendly to the people who, especially non-PoE1 players, it's not as friendly to them as we would want it to be at all. That being said, obviously, there is also the capacity at that point to just be like, all right, I'm going to change my build to do this or go do this, and now I'm just obliterating everything everywhere. And you don't have all those story events breaking up your flow of gameplay. It's just map, kill everything, map, kill everything, map, kill everything, which people love. But yes, for those who know how to do that, that happens too soon. And for those who don't know how to do it, they're getting stuck in a hole and finding themselves very lost. So yeah, 2 sets of improvements. The people that are going to obliterate everything, they're going to have their fun no matter what. They'll get there a bit later, sure, if that's how you want to think about it. But it's way more important to not just have that very much narrative-driven change in pace where all of a sudden it's just and it's gone. And now you're just doing, kind of random stuff. What am I supposed to do next kind of thing? And yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going wrong there. More content would do it, more time on it, more quests, more, But again, PoE1 had a lot of this stuff, and it had so many different axes. If you didn't like one thing, you could do another. If you didn't like that, you could do another, and you could do certain things earlier or later. And we just need to get to that point where there's just more better, without overcomplicating everything.
So my last follow-up to this in-game topic, and I'll send over the guys to continue the conversation elsewhere. So you mentioned that there's a little bit of a separation from what I'm hearing about people know how to blast, they're going to go anyway, right? They're going to crush through and destroy it. Then you have the people that are kind of learning the game, getting into the end game, that might get stuck and lost. How do you feel about the, one pour though? Then now that the game has been out of the wild, does the one pour though feel like it's widening that gap and punishing players who maybe are learning the game too much?
One portal is fine.
People who are going to blast regardless, it doesn't matter because they're not going to be dying consistently in maps. So how do you feel about one pour though state of mapping currently, as well as XP loss still being fairly significant, even though in the previous interview was stated that you don't feel like you need to have the XP loss as much, considering you do have that one pour though defense. Right. We're in a state where we currently have both of them.
So first of all, we did discuss quite a lot about whether or not we want to go back on one portal or not, and I think that it comes down to the fact that I think that it just would really not feel the same if the whole death actually mattering thing. I think is actually important. I think we sort of decided because we discussed because we were talking about the Pinnacle boss thing. Obviously, the discussion came up of okay, should we just be allowing 6 portals everywhere? Should we be allowing checkpoints everywhere?
No.
And I think we ultimately decided we really don't want to go that way if possible. So we're going to try and that's kind of where we came to well, first we'll try with this Pinnacle stuff. We'll make sure that that's something because that's actually something we've got true economic value that you need to actually preserve. And so it matters a lot more, and the amount of time it takes you to get there and everything that matters. But I think if then to me, I feel to be a game, you have to have some level of failure being possible.
Oh my God, I'm in love. I'm in love.
It really just does. To me, it just never really led to a situation where you felt it really could fail in the same way. So yeah, I'm not really a fan. I much prefer the whole like one death thing. As
Yes!
for XP penalty, part of the thinking around that is that like it's kind of keeping you in the place where you're supposed to be, as far as like, you know, if you're dying all the time, then you're probably not ready to keep going up the power curve.
Exactly.
But I mean, maybe that's like the wrong way to look at it. I'm not sure. I don't know if you've got any different.
No, it's not. That's the right way to look at it. If you're dying
right
too
now,
much,
there's too many penalty axes. So if you are dying all the time, you're not going to get maps, and thus you're not going to go anywhere. And you also, it's kind of like an add insult to injury. You're also now just not leveling.
It's nature's
so
way
but you do
of
have to have
filtering
it,
you
so
out.
I agree. I think it's there's a few axes, and I think they're just a bit too severe when all combined together. Combined with, I also think that the very start of maps is just too difficult. Like, I think we should ease into that a little bit. So bring that down a bit, and then ramp the difficulty up. Well, I mean, we could hit the same spot, but I think it's just a little bit, and I think that's mostly due to the number of rare monsters and the obviously monster combinations, because you can kind of avoid bosses, and like I don't mind. I think that's a little bit of a different situation, but you get all these monsters you haven't seen in ages, and they all combine together, and so you have to kind of like, generally when you go into those areas, you learn what the monsters are doing and how they're combining, and then you maybe die once or twice if you're not, you know, ultra powerful. And then you get into maps and you're immediately sprung on like heaps of different monster permutations, and they're doing things, and you're getting killed all the time, and there's a lot to learn. You do the next map and you're like, well, I can't take the learnings of that previous map and apply it to this next map because it's a whole different set of monsters. So there's nothing to really take from one map to another, aside from just like maybe playing a bit more carefully, or like, you know, not being so overzealous and whatnot. So it's just a little bit difficult there, and I suspect we need to bring down the difficulty a little bit and ease people into it a bit more.
Robson, level up your gear.
But I need to think about it certainly a lot more, and actually get a little bit more analytics on it as well, and actually see what the actual problems are. And again, I read a lot more feedback, honestly.
Sure.
It would be nice if there was a way to deal with the fact that, so I mean, like, okay,
I don't
penalty
hate
for not clearing a map
stuff. Why would you say Ruri hates beginner-friendly stuff? We're talking about end-game mapping.
Remove the extra content.
What do you mean beginner-friendly? You're in the end game.
It would be nice if you could just spend another map and still be able to do that content. But unfortunately, that isn't possible. Like, so for example, if you failed on the boss, then you just spend another map and then you can fight the boss again and do that whole thing, right? Like, that would be nice if that was the case. But unfortunately, we can't do that because it would open up too many economic abuse things where, like, you fail the map intentionally because you want to farm the items to the rest of the area. So it's very difficult for us to come up with a solution, like, because I really would prefer that, honestly. It'd be nice if we were able to come up with a solution that would allow you to redo content by spending an extra map without having to like have all the problems that being able to rerun a single map would actually cause. So yeah, like I sort of wish I could come up with a thing for that.
I personally want to keep the one portal and adjust the other axes and see how that plays out before compromising on the one portal. But yeah.
Don't compromise.
It's a bit tricky.
On the
it certainly is the case. We have discussed this so many times.
You have to feel the punishment.
It's come up, and before we released it, it's like people are going to definitely complain about this, and we're like, we know, and we haven't found the solution.
It's a common question. Had to ask.
Yeah,
I understand.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So now there's a lot more people. Well, now there's a lot more feedback and a lot more people. It's much easier for us to get the specifics on how we could get it right, like for sure. Not to say it's now trivial to do. It's still hard. But there's a lot more information there for us to be able to, you know, take less of a shot in the dark, so to speak. So I would expect some changes.
We'll have to wait and see. So we're cutting it a little bit tighter because we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to try to speed run as much as we can, because there is a section that I care very much about. It's minions. So let's get there, okay? Let's just dive into it. And we're going to talk about ailments, damage with time effects. We're talking about ignite. We're talking about dots like poison, for example. So the question is, what's your feelings around it on a hit, as it scales on hit, opposed to its dot scaling, which we have a bit different scaling in PoE1, because now it's based off the actual hit you're doing, which was taken away from PoE1. So what's the reasoning behind this, and what's your thoughts on it?
Know that one?
Well, I can't remember the history of PoE1 too much, but I understand the difference. I mean, I personally prefer that the heavier the hit, the more the dot. The issue we run into is, of course, then you just get... It's either balanced around the extremely hard heavy hitters, and everything else can't really scale them currently. And then you get into the thing, or you go down the PoE1 route where a bunch of skills have ailment penalties and a bunch of them don't, and that more normalizes it so you can play any skill to do the dots. I would say I prefer the asymmetry where it's like, here are the skills that are generally better. The problem is, I'd say that's, again, I mentioned the bleed Hammer of the Gods thing earlier, where it's just now the bleed one-shots the monster, and, you get into that kind of situation. So there's a whole bunch of balance here to get right, but I don't want it to just be like, well, implicitly, I don't want it to be like you can play any build and bleed. You should have to have some combinations, and there's more mechanics and more things we need to add, or more unique items and all of that stuff.
Specifically,
it's tricky because generally speaking, when we're doing first pass balance things, I really like to avoid. I like the bumpiness where we've got like different skills being better at different things, and I really don't like it when we end up in a situation like, for example, in you've got the whole like damage effectiveness on spells in PoE1, and it's like, this is a thing you do to solve a balance problem. Like, this is unrelated to ailments, but like I'm saying, it's just another example of one of those things where you like, oh, I've got this problem where these skills are sort of all out of line with each other, and so we have to do this like sledgehammer to it. We're like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to normalize everything. And I kind of hate that type of thing, and I really try to avoid it wherever we can. And it's kind of one of those annoying things where as games get like, as you do more and more of this balance stuff, you kind of end up with more of these kind of normalization procedures that go on. And so it's nice if we can find ways to avoid it if we can. And that's kind of why I like to try and pitch everything. Like we started with in PoE2 with a lot of things having like going back on a lot of those sort of normalization procedures we did from PoE1. And ideally we would be able to find different solutions that don't involve having to do that. It's one of those things that I worry we might still having to do some of that stuff in order to fix problems. But ideally we can avoid it, and that's kind of why we went back on some of those normalization procedures for PoE2.
So one point, just real quick here about bleeding in particular, because you're talking about bleeding. Since you can't bleed on energy shield, bleeding style element builds are basically disabled against energy shield types of mobs. So feelings on that? Is that something that's just like, well, that's as intended?
Can't bleed on energy shield.
If you're running like unless you're breaking the energy shield, your hit's not going to apply bleed on energy shield, for instance.
I thought that
I don't think that's even true.
I thought that the thing with bleed was it's supposed to bypass energy shield.
It does, but you can only apply a bleed if the hit deals damage to the life pool. So if you're playing CI, you're essentially immune to poison, care, and bleed.
I will take your word for that, but if that is how that works,
it wasn't
that is
not
how that is meant to work.
Yeah,
I only say this because yesterday I heard someone upstairs talking about this and going like, people are just wrong. You can apply bleed to energy shield. Look, and then I was like, okay, but I'll confirm that after this. And look, if that is how that works, that is like
bleed was actually supposed to be like an anti-mage mechanic, not a like. Like as in like you can bleed someone past their energy shield. So
time to
like,
die,
that was kind of the idea
energy shield users. Time to die.
Because I asked that question.
It's time for you guys to get a taste of that warrior.
We could easily be wrong. Like it's amazing.
A taste of the warrior experience,
it has been changed
bitch.
internally and not yet externally. That is another thing also. And like someone may have fixed this some 2 weeks ago and we never got it live or something. Who knows? Like I'll look into it. It's not meant to work that way.
All right, moving forward.
Get them energy shield stackers. Get them. Get them.
And now we are into Ascendancy swapping. Is the next topic here. So these are kind of going back to conversations we've had previously, interviews where you guys were debating it and you wanted to see after the launch of the game, where do we stand?
Personally, I still like not being able to swap. I know no one will like that hot take. And there are plenty of other developers here, and I remember even pitching it, and I was like, is this your hill to die on? Is this what you believe? But that being said, I still prefer that decision being ultra important, and I prefer that decision being locked in.
I think that's fine.
But it's one of those ones that's really hard to rationalize why it's better one way or the other, to be honest. Like, it wouldn't be that hard to actually convince me the otherwise, because it is not the hill I would die on, that's for damn sure. So I don't know. It's like I have my preference. I don't know why I have my preference that way. I guess I just like more decisions, especially about characters, to be a bit more final. But that being said, we have respeccing of everything else. I don't know. I don't really know where we're going to go with this one, aside from like, sure, we'll reevaluate it and we'll see. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of developers that feel very strongly. And then we feel one way and we discuss it with those people and we we kind of see where we land. But like, we're not going to ignore, you know, the opinions and preferences of our team, either our design team and whatnot. You know, just to overrule it, just because. That being said, I sit on one side of that fence for sure, that probably the majority of players do not sit on.
I mean, I'm 55% in favor of re-rolling Ascendancies personally.
What about
so it's very hard for me to
nerf
argue
builds
against
so it
it when I
doesn't
would
work
say that
anymore?
I would allow it. But
I mean,
I'm also, once again, like,
if
other
that's
people
the
on the team feel
reason
more
why,
strongly.
I think we have deeper
I mean, what I
problems
would
than
be
you not
open
being
to
able
is
swap
like,
Ascendancies.
I understand you have to go online to have a look at what those Ascendancy classes are, but I would be more open to having in-game things where when you're creating your character, you know, I don't want to not in a way that wouldn't overcomplicate it for new players where they're like, oh, what are all these, what are Ascendancy classes? What's going on here?
I'm not really in favor of that argument personally, because I don't think that you are equipped at the point of the start of the game to be able to assess what the Ascendancy classes are. So it kind of doesn't. I don't really think that really holds water.
Less for new players, I guess. But then again, experienced players already know how to get that information. So I don't know the right solution there, honestly. But you can bet it's going to come up in discussions another 55 times this year. So
Alejandro,
we're just at the start
about
of it.
a 15%.
Again, we don't want to take too much of your time, so we just keep up with speed running some questions. And the first one here is: given the current TTK, the time to kill, of Pinnacle bosses by many of the stronger builds in the game, I guess the question is, what is the goal for build power? Is one-shotting Pinnacle bosses an intended power level for builds, or is it the intended design something
5
else?
minutes.
This should definitely not be the case that the first time you fight a Pinnacle
5
boss that you one-shot it.
Go on.
Like, that's the kind of thing that maybe you
5
can get
minutes.
to after crazy amounts of like extra items being found, but you shouldn't be doing that the first time you play it. So yeah, it's not right. And that's just, there's some builds that are outrageous, and we want to actually make it so the boss can use their abilities. That's why we spend a bunch of time making them, after all.
Exactly.
Nerf
when you first get there and you're kind of relatively equipped for it, it shouldn't it should still be a 1 to 3 minute fight kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about
reference.
1 minute of emerging. I'm talking 1 to 3 minutes of actual skill combat.
Okay. Well, that's a good time of reference we can use moving forward, knowing that's the kind of the goal going for the vision. Next question is: given the difficulty of requirements to get the 7th and 8th Ascendancy points, is this intended to be something that not all average players can acquire?
We definitely wanted the final Ascendancy points to be something that was like a significant goal. Like, this is an awesome, like it's supposed to be quite a thing when you get the last 2 points. Yeah. I mean, as for an average player versus not, that's kind of hard to answer. I mean, I don't know if the average player gets halfway through maps really. So it sort of depends on the definition, but we wanted it to be a big thing that you get.
So map clear conditions, talking about that for a moment. Clearing rare mobs are effectively like the only real map clear condition at the moment. Is that the plans to continue that going forward, or is this sort of one of many conditions and is a placeholder, or how do you guys feel about the map clear condition being strictly rare mob clearance?
I suspect as we get to answering the exact same thing we talked about before with the more objective driven and learning and tutorialization, we'll probably expand on that. The ideal world is there'd be a whole, a nice cool set of different things you're doing in each map that isn't just killing all the rares, but actually a surprisingly large amount of work to do those and to do them well. Otherwise, you just end up with this thing where it's like, oh, I like this one, but these other 4 are terrible, and I keep randoming into those.
You don't want bad ones of these, and killing the monsters is at least something that you already want to do. So that's kind of part of the reason why we sort of went with that in the end.
So
there's certainly more work. Sorry, go.
No, okay. So the Atlas tree currently is gated basically behind Pinnacle boss progression. Kind of the same type of question as in clear conditions. Is this going to be mandated in the same moving forward, or are you guys looking to add in more iterations of progression on the Atlas tree outside the Pinnacle boss clear?
We did discuss changing how the core of the Atlas progression is, but as for the actual Pinnacle, as for the individual league trees, I think we were still keen to sort of have that be the kind of extra stuff that you really get at the end of that
to get
thing.
The Pinnacle boss's tree, it should be killing the Pinnacle boss. We want to keep that for sure.
Sure.
And for each of the contents. But I want to upgrade the core Atlas tree for sure. I think it's quite boring and flat right now. There's not a lot going on there. And part of that is to do with as we add more content, it will make it more interesting. But there's certainly a better job we can do of that. And how you acquire the points, again, getting away from that grind and getting into more all right, do this 2 points, do this 2 points, do this 2 points, not grind this 2 points, grind this 2 points for the actual core tree. For the sub trees, for the leagues, I actually do like them being behind that. But ideally, each league would then have its own meta system within it to amplify itself in some way, which we don't currently have a lot of. So it's something we'd be looking into in the future when we're upgrading the existing content as opposed to adding new content.
All right. I bet all of our chats have been spamming this, so I'm just going to throw it out right away. Map tab when?
That should be reasonably soon, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's an as soon as possible thing. We've got people working on it right now. As soon as it's done, you'll have it.
I'd need to actually
it was
have
not
maps.
I'm
not buying one.
I'm
not buying the map
we
tab
wanted
right
it there
now.
for release.
I don't need a map tab. I don't need it.
Let's go to tech questions, optimizations, and bugs, kind of a little category we have, and then I'm going to do some minion questions for you guys as well. Appreciate you guys taking the time. I know we're going a little bit above the time here. First question we have is something you talked about in a previous interview, I believe, with Cicerin. It was predictive network mode and lockstep. What is the reasoning behind this specific topic, or what's your take on it, seeing how people are performing right now with this?
I actually haven't hugely investigated this, to be honest. I don't know if you've got any more information about that.
I do not.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have lockstep right now.
Oh, the predictor's just not. Yeah, it's not
we
that.
only
Yeah,
have
yeah,
lockstep
yeah.
currently.
Okay, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
People's
Well, yeah, we
gonna
just need to
roast me
fix
like
that, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, like honestly, the people who would be working on that have not even come back from break yet, so it's just not something that that we've got. But yeah, we do need to get that working. I think it was just disabled mostly out of caution, right? Because we just expected lots of shit would be broken.
There was a few things. I can't remember exactly what they were.
But yeah, we need to get it
there were
sorted.
some things that didn't work in that mode, and we had to re-engineer them.
Yeah.
And no time.
Yeah, we'll get to it though.
Okay, couple just real quick optimization type of questions here. Terrain obstruction is something that has been helped a little bit in this recent, we saw in the video there, you guys were talking about making it a little bit more clear and transparent. But some things like trees, for instance, covering your screen from the overhead, etc. Do you have any feelings on how terrain obstruction is currently in the game? And is there any plans around making this a little bit
It's just a matter of individual work on each individual thing, just like looking at each doodad and being like, yeah, what the bounds need to be, that kind of thing.
That some trees don't fade out
Yeah.
until you're like intersecting with them.
Sure.
And it's
Just-
annoying because
yeah.
you get more, and the faster you move, the more you will be obscured. And so there's some timing changes, there's some proximity changes. There's
just a matter of individual
bunch
balance
of
things.
you
To be
know,
addressed.
There's still some areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as optimization is concerned, I mean, we'll just keep working on it, right? I mean, in the background, you've got the engine guys working on things. There is one very annoying crash that is very, very hard to debug that happens on, I believe it only happens on NVIDIA cards. Where like after sort of an hour or an hour and a half kind of thing, you'll get a crash to
Fuck
desktop.
Team Green.
And
Fuck 'em.
It's been
That's
very,
what you
very
get.
difficult to track down, and we're
That's what you
adding
get
more
for giving
debug stuff. In
NVIDIA
fact, I
your
think there'll be
money.
a patch. If we can't work it out internally, we'll actually probably eventually make a patch where we tell people to like turn on a command line flag that will enable
joking.
extra debug information, because the thing that will allow us to debug this does reduce frame rates by like 5%. So we might actually ask people to like, hey, turn this on until we find the problem, and then it'll reduce your frame rates a little bit, but it'll help us track it down. And then once we've got that, then we should be able to work it out. Effectively, they're like concurrency bugs within the GPU. But annoyingly, we were also told that the next version, like NVIDIA told us that the next version of the NVIDIA driver does make the crash go away. But then they also said that they didn't know why that was the case. So I don't know if we can 100% rely on that either. So there's something weird going on that's like quite hard to track down going on here.
NVIDIA,
hopefully we can
perfectionism.
work it out soon.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it
we just need
fixes
we need
the
more
problem.
debug information. It's very
Why?
hard to track down, unfortunately.
man.
And it's kind of annoying how it takes so long to
don't know.
reproduce. Like there's even a thing where like the first hour after we do a restart patch, we don't get any of those crashes because it literally takes more than an hour to reproduce. And then after that, they start coming in. So there's like something weird going on there. But it's the most common crash, and like we're just like really annoyed. It's just very annoying to deal with.
Thanks for the answer, because that was a very common question. People were talking about crashes and wanted to ask you about it. So good answer there.
Yeah.
At this portion, all we have left is some minion questions from Ghazi, just a couple of them. And then we're into the rapid fire portion, and then we're pretty much done. So try to get you out of here in 10, 15 minutes. Go on, Ghazi.
Sure.
Let's just dive into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about Hodor. Minion body blocking in doorways. Let me just add the word, come on.
So,
Solutions,
I
please.
mean, yeah, like this is something that we need to work out a better solution for. Like what I can say is that, okay, so people will immediately say, oh, just make it so that minions can just walk through each other. And it's like, we've done that and it sucked. And it doesn't just suck because of that it looks bad or something. Like it sucks to actually, like, it actually just makes the minions play worse. So we need to find another solution that's like smarter somehow that like fixes that issue. One thing we are planning on doing, just as an initial test that we've got, I believe someone's doing at the moment, is at least making it so that when minions die due to distance, that they respawn immediately near your character rather than it waiting until the next refresh. So like that'll at least maybe help a bit, but I don't know if it's like the full solution by any means. But there's something we have to do around this, but I honestly don't know quite what it is yet. And as I said, like all of the obvious solutions, as you might say, we have tried and they weren't great. So it really is going to take something a little bit more complicated to do to like work out what we're doing here. But yes, I appreciate the issue for sure. Like I'm not saying that we're not going to do something about it because we have to. I'm just saying that like it's not clear yet what that is. And at the very least, in the meantime, we can do the respawn instantly upon timing on the distancing out, which will help a little bit maybe. But yeah, more needs to be done.
It's one of the big problems people complain about with
for
the
sure,
build.
For sure.
For them rubber banding to you resurrecting is much better than them dying, because that is part of my other question I had here. However, in PoE 1, there is a feature added as a modifier on well-telegraphed boss abilities that you're supposed to, as a player, dodge where your minions can't because you can't control them, so they do less damage to them. PoE 2 doesn't seem to have this based on the data mine I've been checking, which seems to be that they're just expected to literally just die, and then you have to sit there and wait for them to resurrect. What's the reasoning for not giving us convocation, which would also assist in the whole minion body blocking doorways and tight corridors?
Are there not minion things in the AI? We did do some of that.
Not that I've seen.
This, I can't remember exactly an AI.
No, I mean the damage.
From a damage perspective, not hugely, no. We were tinkering around with this whole expectation of like, how often, if you have like no investment and all this, how often are your minions supposed to be permanent minions, supposed to be dead versus alive? And then what are the things you can do to keep them alive? Because it was meant to be more in order to have your minions, otherwise they're never dead, right? They're permanently alive, and then the DPS is you just running around doing whatever you're doing. And
that is really the issue, just to be clear, is that if we make it so that boss abilities aren't killing your minions, then that means that that would effectively mean your minions would just never die. And so then what's the...
It was meant to be more of active, what are you doing to keep them alive actively? Sure. And we haven't got that right. Like, for sure, we haven't got that right. So like, I guess Bone Offering was meant to be one of those examples of like boss slams coming, and then, but also then you got a multi-thread, you got about how do I survive and how do I do this at the same time? So there's certainly something going wrong there where we haven't, and I believe there's probably still a lot of boss abilities that just haven't been tuned correctly with respect to, again, how often they're killing certain minions versus not. Because there will be things, I'm assuming, that are just completely unavoidable and they just wipe out your entire minion thing, and then it's like, well, what was I even supposed to do? So the problem is, as soon as you get into this build, the level of like detail that you have to do, where you not only have to, sure, there might be some system change, and it's easy to probably do a cop out that's just like, whatever. It's actually the right answer is to go through every single boss and test them and go through monsters and go through mods, and like it's a huge amount of detail and it takes quite a long time. We have people like kind of actively providing that more specific feedback, and we are iterating on it. But there's still certainly a handful of things we need to do. Otherwise, I'd say the blocking the doorways is a more catastrophic problem for sure. Like where they just like can't get through, and they're like running off screen and them dying. So like we're focusing more on that stuff first, and then we'll probably get back to the boss specific balance with respect to how often certain skills are just wiping out all your minions and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the idea that the bosses are supposed to kill them. The problem is when a boss leaves a damage over time effect on them, they kill a bunch of them, your timer starts ticking, and then the dot kills the next one, it resets, and then it kills the next one, it resets. Yeah. You just have to wait for all of them to die, and now you're sitting there doing nothing. You feel like you're in a wheelchair, not able to run around. But an instant use convocation could be a solution to that, which would help with the whole body blocking. A lot of people have been spamming me about make them give us convocation, and I'm in that category as well. But moving on to the other question, to not waste too much time, and that is a very interesting question. What is the reasoning behind making the minion's movement speed a direct replicator copy of what you have as a player, including when you get a minion movement speed debuff reduction on yourself?
So me and Mark were actually quite surprised to learn that when you get a debuff on your character, that it causes your minions to slow down.
Yeah, it's not intended.
That was not intentional, and so we'll just fix it.
We'll just change that.
Yeah, we'll just fix it. That was not a thing we even realized was the case.
Okay. Yeah. Next one is tooltip is a bit wonky with the minions, with it being incorrect in cases, especially accuracy actually being very wildly off, where it says you have a 100% chance to hit and it's not hitting, and then the tooltip is missing altogether on things like raiding spirits. And sometimes when you change a gem on an unrelated ability, suddenly your tooltip on your damaged minions is also changing randomly. Is this something
that
you've
sounds like a bug to me?
Yeah, we'll fix that as soon as.
I just need to look into what's going on.
Our developer responsible, well, they might be back today, but our developer responsible for that has still been on holiday. So as soon as they're back, they'll get onto fixing them.
Yeah. There was quite a lot of rushed like description stuff happening right at the end of development there. So I'm sure there's even more stuff that's wrong than that, just like with that stuff.
I'm surprised that tooltip stuff is as good as it is, given, like, I remember 2 weeks before release, I was like, this is a dead feature. Like, it may as well not exist. And then all of a sudden it was at least something that I was okay, that's a pretty good effort on what they did. So there's just more to do though, of course.
I got plenty more minion questions, but I'm just gonna go with the one that's been spammed the most, and that's spectres when.
So soon, fairly soon. It took more work than we expected. Actually, like there was just a lot of there was a lot of specific shit we have to do, but it won't be. It's not too far away.
Well, the designers have to go through, all the monster designers have to go through and make spectrable versions of every monster, which in PoE 1 was a lot easier, and in PoE 2 there is so much more manual designer-based scripting on like a monster-to-monster basis that we have to like take out all of that random stuff to do with dialogue and like, because you don't want to all of a sudden like have a spectre come out and then you're like, it dies and your character says some random thing, and because all of a sudden now your character's just spamming random dialogue all the time, and like.
But there was even stuff that's kind of stupid where it's like, oh, the idle animation of this monster is loud. And so if you've got it as a spectre, then like it makes it too annoying, and like just there's all sorts of random stuff that happens when you turn things into a spectre that's kind of not obvious.
Effectively, every single monster has to be.
Yes,
that is true. Well, we don't want to repeat those same problems, right? So ideally, the audio team actually gets time to do proper spectre mastering, so to speak, on all their audio for all the monsters. But no, I believe the designers are almost done with their part, which means it's then just audio and then a whole metric, which has been happening in parallel, but a whole metric ton of balance testing to make sure that we're not just, which is a lot, by the way. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with these things.
Well, balancing the spirit cost of
each
because
it's immersive.
Of each of these is going to be interesting.
Testing it with every array of support gems. And, monsters can be set up kind of jank, where you're like, that's like a projectile, but like it's using some other skill that's kind of actually like triggering projectiles, and so if you actually put multiple projectiles on it, it might not affect it in the way you think. And like from a damage perception of like I take less damage from projectiles, that's fine. From an avoidance perspective, it's fine. But then there'll be some weird thing where, because with like player skills, we actually code every single skill, like exactly here's how it's meant to work. It's like quite intricate. With monsters, we're cowboys. We just go ballistic and just set them up to make sure that they're good. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh right, we had to make a spectre of this. Okay, well, and then you have to hack a bunch of stuff together. But it's also what allows us to be able to make a ludicrous amount of monsters all the time. But yes, now you have to make spectres of all of them, which is. You're almost done. We've almost caught up to where we were, so I'd say, soon, whatever soon means.
Not too far.
All right, so we are in the last portion. 5 minutes, some rapid fires. We'll fit whatever we can in within this 5 minutes, and we're done at this point. Thanks for going 10 minutes over at this point. So
that's all right.
I'm just going to pick random ones here. Search feature on an atlas, so you can search like.
Yep, we definitely should have that. This was something we even said before we even released, but we just never got time to do. But yeah, we'll do that at some point.
Got it.
On the list.
Tornado Bird in the game for Ultimatum is the hardest boss in the entire game. in my opinion, personally. Is do you have
I
any
believe that's
feeling-
resolved, and 011 does have changes to that one. I
Okay,
believe
he's ridiculous.
I
Got
saw it on the
Thank
list.
you.
I saw it on the patch notes.
All right.
Yeah, I just can't remember what skills. Yeah,
It
sure.
was
There's something.
it was the tornado. Like it was more avoidable or
Yeah.
something. There was some stuff. It is in the specific boss balance that got addressed in this.
We'll see after
He's
the
insane.
patch,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we'll make more changes
Yeah.
if needed. Yeah.
OP. Okay, so auction house. We're getting spammed about this all the time. You've answered many questions. How are your guys' feelings about an auction house or in-game purchasing or buyout on the website or anything related to that?
Buy it on the website.
I mean, I've talked about what we could do before. I don't have anything to announce right now.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll discuss this more. I'm sure this will come up again.
Sure. Accessibility question. Red-green color blindness is the most common in the world.
Yeah.
It's my understanding.
Yeah.
Obviously, red on green is a very common thing within Path of Exile 2, specifically in Ultimatum, which is a mandated Ascendancy trial. So for any plans around accessibility features for this?
Well, effectively, that's usually what we do for the stuff. Is rather than having a mode for it, we tend to just make sure that each thing, like we test it on people who are actually colorblind. So I just need to get probably Reese to just test all the stuff specifically because I know he's red-green colorblind and just make sure that they're actually distinguishable. I generally prefer rather than having modes for it to like have
people with that color blindness highlighting the area. So ultimatum, as you said, being bad gives us a target, and we'll start someone there.
Yeah.
Sure. Speaking of visibility, rare and blue mobs. Can't really tell they're rare and blue mobs, or magic mobs, I should say. There's no highlight on them like in PoE1. You know how there's like a little highlight around them? So you can't.
So the
visually tell
intention
the
is that you can tell when a monster is based on the effect of the actual thing itself. There might be some cases where we're just not being successful in that regard, and so we just need to improve it.
We're going to do more there, and we are going to try some things that are give them magic and rare identifiers that aren't. The glows just really took you out of the, like when you're in a dark dungeon and you're exploring it, like just,
and honestly,
what the heck is this glowing beacon of light over here?
I just wish Fresnel glow was just banned in games generally. Like it's just everyone just relies on it. Like, oh, we need to make this more visible. Add a Fresnel glow to it. Like it's just this freaking it's a cancer in games generally. Sorry, this is just a random side rant from me, but I just hate the fact that everyone lazily goes to Fresnel glow and freaking everything.
Fair enough. Last question related to visuals. So visual effects in co-op can be very difficult. You know, you got people saying lots of shit around.
Spark
opinions on toggling other people's visual effects, etc.
Yes.
I don't want to add an option like that, but there is probably
do.
more we can do automatically for that kind of stuff.
Add an option.
There'll be some engine-based things we can.
Yeah, there will be. There's probably more we can do, and just like that. But in my opinion, it should be automatic, and like you shouldn't even really be thinking about it. It should just happen. Like I'm not a fan of just like turn off all the effects. Like I'm just it's kind of lame to me.
Fair enough. Disenchanting flasks for quality. They're one of the things you can't salvage in the game currently in order to get like the quality baubles back that you'll be able to do on flasks.
Right.
Is this intended?
Is there really any reason why we shouldn't do that? I know you were like, it's because it doesn't thematically fit with a hammer on a bench. Just smash the glass.
I mean, I think that's why it is, but like, I have nothing against adding it.
Yeah. We can probably change that, right? Like
I think it was more like, let's do something interesting for flask salvaging and crafting later and save that, but we can add it for now.
We should just add it. I have no problem with adding it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we should probably nerf the drop rate of flasks slightly. High levels. That's just a random note that I was thinking about yesterday as I was picking up tons of flasks. Random side note. But
We've almost got all of them. Checkpoints and maps in order to backtrack in maps. How do you feel about that?
So not for resurrecting purposes,
just for fast travel. It's not a terrible idea. I'd have to think a little bit about how we would position those. I'm not against it necessarily. I guess the feeling is that there's not so many like objectives in maps in the same way.
When you do those linear maps and you missed a rare monster, you want to go play something else for a while.
You're right. But, so we should probably do something about this, but I don't have an exact understanding of what we'd need to do perfectly.
Sure.
Yeah.
On the table, however. Okay. Being able to see gems without cutting. Currently, like you got to cut the gem to look at the list of skills.
I mean, I don't really have anything against it, but where the hell does the option go? I'll think about that. I'm not really against that.
Yeah. Maybe on the G button, top, click at all skills.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Gambler in the hideout. We have all the other vendors, but we don't have like a gambler in the hideout. For instance, like Alva normally does this.
For that, what was there was something very broken at the end and we quickly turned it off, but I think we just need to fix one thing and then turn it back on. There was something very bad exploitation tier, and so we were just like disable. It's like 10 minutes until deployment kind of thing.
4 left, and we got through all of them. Okay, so Venom Quest is currently the only one that you can't reselect the rewards. So, for instance, you can reselect like the Titan Dome with the Life Flask or the Charm Duration. You can't select from like Chaos to Attributes or whatever. Any opinions on keeping that permanent, or can we reselect?
I want to add a way to change that, which I know people might be like, well, hold on, then why don't you want to allow a way to change Ascendancies? And the answer is I don't know. That's just how I feel. But
that's right.
I might feel differently later. But yes, I do want to add a way to change that for sure.
We'll let you change this, but not Ascendancies.
Any feelings about having them be implicit, or basically movement speed mandatory on boots, or else you're really slowed down. So how you guys feel about moving movement speed to implicits, or do you have any feelings on movement speed on boots?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a problem to have a mod that's really, really valuable on an item that you definitely want to go for. Like, boots is certainly the case where that's like the most extreme, but I don't necessarily think it's a problem as such. So, you know, like, I personally don't have a problem with it. But I don't know if you feel different.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like having it that like. Yeah.
Too bad,
I
so
think
sad.
it's good.
That's what they have.
I mean, like if you added move speed implicitly to boots, would you then be like, okay,
unlucky,
well, like IPD
you're
going to
be slow.
Like you start to get into funny territory in some sense, right? We're like, you know, so anyway, that's kind of our feeling.
If you're unlucky,
last two,
get fucked.
UI customization options, is that potential?
I mean, you'd have to be more specific.
I think people just want
in
to be
general, no, like.
Yeah.
If you're looking at like, you know,
like we're not going to be World of Warcraft like like UI mod type there, but yeah, like if there's something specific, then you're like, I wish we could do this. Then maybe we would think about it. It's just a question of what
more of a generic question. I was
let
getting.
people
last
use
one,
controller,
boys. State
the
of
controller
co-op
layouts.
And body blocking,
on mouse and
your
keyboard.
you know, with co-op here.
I think it's.
There's something not right about it.
There's something not right about it. I agree, but I do think you do need it to make things feel more physical. But there is something not right about it. But there shouldn't be, considering that players are actually. No, because you know what it is? It's because we changed really, really close to the end of development the size of the player instead of changing the size of all the monsters. And I think that probably results in like a situation. But yeah, but there's something not right about it. But I don't want to just completely remove it. We might end up with a solution where like the size of a player to other players is different than what the size is to other monsters or something like that in order to kind of like ease it. I suspect we'll do something along those lines. Yeah, I'll that is it. It wasn't really on my radar, I have to admit, but we should do something about this. Yes.
And you'll forgive me for asking one last question that I'm curious about myself. In terms of microtransactions coming from PoE 1 to PoE 2, do we have any cadence or quantity or any information we can give them when we're going to be seeing more of our previous purchases?
Well, the main thing is that by the time we go out of early access, we have to have all of them. As for the like rate at which they come through, I mean, look, we'll try and get as many as we can and done in the near future. I honestly like. This is so the rigging team are like busy doing that, and I haven't paid enough attention to them. I need to go catch up with them and ask them, hey, how's that job going that I see you going on to?
It's probably it turned into more work than we initially anticipated for sure. There's like a whole bunch of effects that don't translate one to one, so there's a lot of departments that have to do a lot of work. They are tuning through it. That being said, like, you know, it was certainly more complicated before when we were in that last like several month or 3-4 month like kind of lead up to release, and it was kind of like, okay, we need to have all hands on deck getting certain game content done, and we generally prioritize gameplay over microtransactions when, especially in those kind of moments. And so now it's going to ease up a bit, and we can allocate some a bit more resources there to get more of them ported across. But yeah, it did end up being a little bit more work than we actually anticipated. It's not just like a copy-paste job and it's done. Some things have to be like kind of re-authored to actually work in one over the other.
Neither of them asked about crossbow
mostly
jamming.
Due to like lighting,
shame.
I suppose, really is what is the big difference.
DM, I told you about crossbow jamming.
So I don't have an immediate cadence for you, but yeah, we should start getting them coming out, like rolling out relatively soon.
All right, and I think that pretty much wraps it. I mean, we're getting spammed about Path of Exile 1's 3.26, but unless you want to talk about, you know...
Bit of a long topic to get into at this point.
Yeah, so I figured I'd just throw it out there, but that's it. Guys, you want to wrap it up?
All right, excellent.
Let's just say thank you for coming, and you know, it always happens. We say 1.5 hour. It always goes above, and we very much appreciate you guys' time, and sorry for going so long. But pleasure having you guys on. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and can't wait for the patch notes. And we'll see you guys very soon then.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you later.
I want to say thank you also. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Sorry it was 20 minutes extra, but thanks for your time.
We don't have a clock in here. You understand? You could have said it was the right amount of time, and we wouldn't know.
Oh man, I missed my last
we don't know how long it's been.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bro, devs are always screwed with me because basically I just like, listen, you're going to have to drag me out of here whenever I'm doing interviews. Like, yep, if you don't drag me out, I'm going to keep talking. It is what it is. Uh-oh.
Go. We're back on camera and everything there too. All right.
There it is.
Holy moly. All right, chat. Sorry, we tried, guys. Look, we had 70-something plus questions. We went over the allotted time that we had. We did our best to get all of your guys' questions.
That crossbow jamming question.
I know we missed some of them that you guys wanted to talk about.
Crossbow jamming.
Literally the best we can. I know there's tons of specific questions you said, you're wanting to ask about the Huntress or the Druid, et cetera, et cetera. We did what we could. So
I'm joking.
Appreciate y'all watching. Thanks to GGG really for the opportunity. And there's the raid as well. So that was about as good as we could do, realistically. I'm actually impressed we got through as many questions as we could. Damn near held them at gunpoint there at the end to try to get through these. But good job, lovely co-host Ghazi.
Yeah, good job, DM. I think we had 95% questions completely taken in the community. I feel like we did what we could to make sure the community got their voices heard as well. So I hope you guys that were watching enjoyed it. I hope you guys got most of your questions answered at least. And thank you, DM. It's been lovely working with you for over a year now, and we got more coming. So I'm very happy with it. Especially the ending, dude. I would not have been able to do that with someone else. Like, that was so smooth.
I had to rapid fire through. We literally had over 30 questions left. You guys we had 30 questions left, and we were over by 15 minutes. So I'm like, I have to, reel them in.
Were you like the interview?
We were awesome. Deleting messages. Okay, let's just get this one out. And we're like, okay, do I take it from here? Okay, move that one up. Let's prioritize these. Go.
Yeah, good job on the document there in the middle. But that was great, man. My birthday's tomorrow, so that was a lovely birthday present to be able to host.
Hey, happy birthday, DM.
Sometimes it's a little surreal being able to do all that, but
that's awesome.
That's it. I mean, we did. All right, boys, it's a wrap. GG's. Thanks everyone for being here. I got nothing but love for y'all. Appreciate it. Thanks for everyone watching, restreaming, and to my co-host and all the people generating questions. And I know there's plenty of streamers and stuff out there with other questions. We tried to get to as many of them as we could, boys. So till next time, I suppose. What's your plans here? Are you going for the rest of the evening?
Muddler, I did ask for an interview.
All right, tell you what, I'll raid them into you. I'm going to raid them into you, brother. I'm going to let you take the torch here. I'm going to take it as a job well done. Say thank you to everybody. I will be live again tomorrow for my birthday live stream.
Nice.
At let's do 11 a.m. PST, which is 2 p.m. EST. I will be live again tomorrow, and we will probably have to roll a new hardcore because we lost ours yesterday. So that's about it.
Did you die?
I died to the overflow bug plus chaos stacking, so I got chaos.
Okay, I saw that. Yep.
And then I lost overflow bug, but it is what it is. I decided not to ask about that.
Rip DM.
See y'all tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. See you in the morning.
Again, DM.
Have a wonderful
I'll
day.
catch you later, man.
Yep, I'll wrap up and I'll send them your way, Ghazi.
Appreciate it, man. Cheers.
Alrighty.
Okay, we're gonna go full camera. All right, boys. As for me, up here in Alaska, that's gonna do it. I'm gonna send it over to Ghazi. Go give him some love as well, my co-host, for helping put it together. Thank you to GGG for the opportunity to ask some questions. Thank you to the audience for helping put those questions together, as basically all of these questions were from you guys. As far as the other questions about asking stuff, I don't know. I'm not a dev. You would have had to have been in an earlier live stream to get those answered and added onto the thing. So that's about it. Love you all. See you tomorrow, 11 a.m. PST with Star of the Hardcore. And that was a fun day. That was a fun day, everybody. So go tell Ghazi what's up, and I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. Eastern.
I want to talk about a couple of things. Okay? Wait, which one was it? This one. A couple of things real quick that I want to rattle off. Rarity. I was not a fan of the answers when it comes to rarity, because They're talking about like, oh, we want to have rarity. This is fun. It's like, and yeah, rarity does upgrade your currency and whatnot. And I've had people tell me, Rurikhan, rarity is fine. Wait, the volume's too loud. Give me a second. I've had people tell me, Rurikhan, rarity is fine. It's overblown. And it's like, listen, here's my experience with rarity, okay? I played my mercenary with no rarity, and it fucking sucked when it came to currency, okay? I'm not talking about, well, currency drops were not great. I'm talking about currency drops fucking sucked, okay? And now I'm playing my warrior, and he has 100% rarity, and guess what? He's getting so many exalts. My warrior, like, I don't even have to think about exalting an item, okay? If I even think that there's like, oh, there might be, I think there might be something cool coming out, I'll just slam it. I don't even care, okay? That's the difference between having 100% rarity and having no rarity, okay? So when it comes to rarity, you can tell me all that you want about like, oh, I've tested, I've done this and that and the other, blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, I went from having fuck all for exalts and having to scrounge for every time I wanted to roll an exalt on an item to having as many exalts as I could possibly want, and the only difference was rarity. That's it. Okay? So it's like, right now, I promise you, if you want to get currency, rarity is not an option. It's not. It's not like, oh, I have to choose between this thing. No, you don't choose. You don't get the option of choosing unless your choice is, I have to choose between getting currency or not getting currency. That's the choice you're actively making. And if you're okay making that choice, then yeah, I guess it is a choice. But if you want to get currency, you're putting in magic fine. That's it. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. Okay? So that's my thoughts when it comes to rarity. Now, the other thing that they talked about, warrior. I was not happy about the conversations about warrior because the way in which the developers were talking about warrior, they're like, well, mace is not that bad. No. Listen, mace, it's almost like, let's say there's a scale, right? And let's say that most of the other weapons, like, I don't fucking know, wands, bows, that type of stuff. Let's say those weapons are like on 10, okay? If those weapons are on 10, maces are on fucking 2. Okay? So it's not like there's a little bit, there's a couple of it. No, it's fucking catastrophic, okay? The issues with maces, in my opinion, are catastrophic. So, that's just my opinion on that. Ruri, it's a 10% increase tested on 600 maps. Like I said, over 30 times more exalts. So, I don't know if your testing is wrong or if I've just gotten exponentially lucky by simply changing to 100% rarity. But my experience tells me if you want to get currency, get rarity. Now, like I was saying, serious issues when it comes to maces. The delay in attacks is absolutely brutal. The animation commitment of attacks is pretty much not viable, okay? That's the level that we're at. Unless you're playing something like an energy shield warrior, then sure, you can sit there and tank all that damage and survive and still do your thing. But if you're actually, trying to play an armor warrior in endgame, a lot of the things in the mace are straight up not viable. And no, I don't agree with DM when he says that the problem is mid-late endgame. Because, listen, here's where the problem is when it comes to warrior, okay? You start playing the game, and you get access to Rolling Slam. And pretty much there's no other skill that you want to use but Rolling Slam until you get to a point where not even Rolling Slam works, and that's when you start resorting to Mace Strike. And that's it. That's the Mace life. You Mace Strike. And yes, there are some things that you can kind of do to kind of finagle it, but it's like for your average player experience with Warrior is miserable. It's just that simple. So I don't agree with what they said. And then that is compounded when they're like, oh yeah, we kind of finagled around with armor. It's about 15% better. And I'm like, 15%. 15% of 0 is still fucking 0. That's what I have to say to that. Like, 15% is not even within the realm of what I would consider to be adequate for the current situation of armor. Now, by the way, I'm talking about these things, giving guys my opinion. I'm not saying this to kind of like slam the devs. I'm just saying this would be my feedback from the whole thing, right? So 15% buff to armor, which is what Mark said, if I'm not mistaken. He said, it's about a 15% increase to the efficiency of armor. Like, that's like reroll city. My recommendation right now is like for players, I'm thinking about playing Armor Warrior. My recommendation is like, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. You're not going to have a good time, okay? I'm going to do it because I don't feel like rerolling another character at this point. So I'm going to continue to struggle and lose maps randomly because you just get one shot out of fucking nowhere. But yeah, I think that 15% is nowhere close to being acceptable. And then the other thing is essentially that blocking does nothing to boss attacks. So it's like if a big boss attack is coming, and you're like, I'm a block. No, you're not. No, you're fucking not. But yet, energy shields can tank that shit just fine. So it's like, you got energy shields that can tank it. You got, I don't know if you can dodge it through evasion, because I just don't know enough about the game to know about that stuff. But maybe you can dodge it through evasion. If you got armor, you're dead. And if you try to block it, you're dead. And it's like, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, you know, that's the thing that I'm saying. Armor buffs make sense. You want to incrementally increase instead of super overshoot. The thing is, Sericard, if you've been playing like an armor warrior, you will know that 15% is nothing. 15% of what we're getting right now is nothing. You're just going to get destroyed. I saw Stampede build utilizing armor plus life leech plus stun threshold. I mean, sure. You can dodge it with acrobatics. And there you go. He also said the issue is the hits, not the armor. I don't know, dude. It's a really weird situation. It just feels like it's not there. I don't know. I feel like 15% is too little. I'm still gonna keep playing my Warbringer because that's just a character that I've been having the most fun with. But likely for future leagues, unless they drastically change things, I'm never going to play a character that requires armor. Because people already told me that like armor in PoE 1 was pretty much worthless. And it just seems like the path to go is Energy Shield, because Energy Shield is just basically effective HP. And that just seems to be the way to go when it comes to defense for the game. And if they're going to be as conservative about fixing armor while still... I don't think they said anything about Energy Shield, right? I think they were like, yeah, Energy Shield's fine, it's whatever. Like, if they're not changing anything about Energy Shield, then basically Energy Shield is the only thing that you need to shoot for. So, I don't know. I don't know. Right now, I'm playing this. Once they reset it, if the feeling of playing this character doesn't change drastically, I'm just not even going to see armor as a viable stat. Which kind of sucks, because armor is usually the way that I like to roll. I like big, beefy armors. That's my thing. The other thing also is, like, don't you get extra penalized for wearing heavy armor? You all on top of it, you also get to move slower than the other classes, which is like, so I have the worst form of defense in the whole fucking game, and my reward for that is I get to move slower than everybody else. That the roll penalty, there's a roll penalty as well, and I also get my dodges nerfed. It's like, bro, what else you gonna do? Make it reduce the damage on my already shitty weapons while we're at it. So, you know, it's just one of those things. So I'm gonna keep playing armor right now, but moving forward, if I see that it's not changing significantly, then yeah, I think I'm done playing armor characters, which is kind of sucks. The warrior hate is real. I hope you're not talking about me, because I love warrior. Will you lose everything once the game gets released, or do you keep your level? The way that it works is there's leagues. So once the game releases, I'm assuming they're going to have a league. So you'll want to make a new character because only new characters get to participate on the leagues. So you get to keep your characters in the early access league, and you get to continue playing your characters. But to gain access to new features, you'll want to make a new character. So, yeah. I mean, the other devs and such. Yeah, I do feel like there's... For some reason, bro, I just feel like in most games, it's just the case. Like, whenever it comes to RPGs, most people just don't like the bog standard warrior for whatever reason. It kind of sucks because I like it. So, you know, it is what it is. And then there's accuracy that only affects warriors currently. Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, accuracy I already just resigned to. I just won't crit. Okay, listen, I just quit. I won't crit. I'll just do the resolute technique. Don't have to deal with that. Now, another thing that they talked about, which has me a little bit concerned, is the more quests in endgame. So right now, in endgame, what effectively you have is they just tell you, hey, go do more maps. That's your quest. Then you finish those maps and go like, go do more maps. I actually like that. Okay? And when Mark started talking about, oh, maybe we'll have something where, oh, go do a breach. Oh, go do this thing. Oh, go do that thing. I don't want that. I really don't. You know why? Because that sounds a whole lot like Diablo 4's Season Journey, which I definitely don't fucking want. I remember I was trying to do the Season Journey. It's giving me meaningless bullshit chore tasks like, why don't you go ahead and socket 5 gems? Like, I don't want to socket a gem. My character's level fucking 20. I don't need gems. Okay? I don't need them. It's like, change the appearance of 5 pieces of gear. Fuck you and fuck your 5 pieces of gear. It's like, I don't want to do any of this. These are meaningless goddamn chores. So it's like, I hope they don't go that route. I really, really do. Because right now, I'm having a ton of fun just doing maps, because what happens is they tell you, go do 10 maps. And the way in which I do those maps is completely up to me. So I get to choose. Oh, I feel like doing a breach now. I feel like doing a, whatchamacallit. I feel like doing a ritual. I feel like doing a strong box. I choose, and I choose to do exactly what I want to do. And I like that. Now I understand that a lot of people like being handed out lists of chores. Me personally, I like finding my own fun in games. I'm be like, oh, so the objective of just like do 10 maps, that is perfect, because I can do 10 maps however the fuck I see fit. I can decide I want to do 10 maps in this direction. I want to do 10 maps in that direction. I want to go over here and check out this tower. I want to go over here and check out this thing. I love the freedom. And if it becomes too structured, where it's like, okay, now I got to go do 2 breaches. Now I got to go do 3 rituals. Now I got to go... I don't want that. I most definitely do not want that. Now, if you want to give me quests for bosses, that I want. Like, if you want to be like, oh, you should go kill this boss now. But continue giving me the map quest so that I'm not forced to go do the boss quest. That's like an optional thing. That's fine. But I don't want to have like a list of chores. I hate chores, okay? I never like it when games give me chores. It is the worst thing that you can do. It is the easiest way of getting me less interested in the game is to give me a list of fucking chores. I hate it. So, I don't know. You do not get any character improvement from those quests itself. I mean, Rurikhan, the way that he was talking about how, you know, right now you have these quests and then you get Atlas points for doing them. It's like, if he's going to make it so that, oh, go do a breach quest and I get an Atlas point, that's not an optional thing. I need to go do the breach quest in order to get the Atlas point, right? That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm concerned with them tying like player power to these mandatory quests. Not to mention I'm OCD, so if they put all those tasks in there, I'm going to end up doing them anyways because I'm just stupid like that. You guys remember when I was doing the thing with the 3 mushrooms and you guys telling me, Rurikhan, you don't have to do it. It's 2 stupid potions. You don't need that. Now, like, you don't understand. The objective is there on the map. Clearly, I need to do it. The objective is there. Like, I have this thing about, like, I need to clear the map. I don't want to see any quests left on the map, okay? The map needs to be complete. That's the way that I look at it. So that's the problem. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit conflicted when he started talking about like, oh, we're gonna give you a quest to go do a breach and a quest to go do a ritual. I'm like, I don't like that. I like the way that it's set up right now. I like you give me the 10 maps and then I can go make my own fun in the Atlas. I much prefer it that way. I 1,000,000% prefer it that way. I hate it. Like, this is one of my favorite things about, Souls games and stuff, is that the Souls game doesn't give you like a fucking Ubisoft list of chores that, oh, you got to go do this thing, got to go do that. In a Souls game, it's like, I go whatever the fuck I want. I do whatever the fuck I want. And there's no mandatory thing that you have to go do. I love that freedom. I hate checklists. I hate them. I hate them with a passion. So, yeah. By the way, have you gone to Temple of Chaos and Cruel yet? Yes. I haven't, wait, have I completed? Yeah, I've completed a 3-boss run. I haven't completed, wait, is it 3 bosses? Yeah, I've completed a 3-boss run. I haven't completed a 4-boss run. I've done the same thing with Trial of Sekhmet. As a matter of fact, I got my, my 6th and 7th, no, my 5th and 6th. I got my 5th and 6th points in my first try. So, yeah. PoE1 is pretty much all about freedom in the endgame, picking which system you want to interacting and blocking or ignoring the ones that you want. I hope they continue that, because that one got me a little bit concerned. Again, I want to make it clear. I'm just talking about my overall impressions of some of the things that were discussed. I'm not saying like, oh, I can't believe this is like this. Oh, it's going to be terrible. It's doom and gloom. Except for Warrior. I do feel that Warrior's a little bit doom and gloom. And if I was a Giga min-maxer, after this conversation, I'd be like, I ain't touching Warrior. I'm done. Woof. Maces and armor? Done. Over. Straight up, like 100%. I'm not even joking. If I was that type of player that's just like straight up min-maxer, after this discussion that they've done, I'm like, armor? Gone. Mace? Gone. Straight up. That would be number 1. Now, the final thing, this I loved. I fucking loved. Okay, when he asked about, oh, what about 6 maps for 6 portals for maps and stuff, and Jonathan just shut that shit down. He's like, nope, I like it with 1. I don't want to change that. And I was like, yes, I think it's important. I am a genuine believer. There needs to be punishment for death. You died, you get slapped across the wrist. It is what it is. You gotta get good, because that way it enables them to really have these things be rewarding. Because like, no, you did the thing, good job, here's your good boy points, there you go. Here's some loot, here's some stuff, boom, boom, boom. I like the fact that there's actual danger dying. Because, like, the thing to me is, a lot of people are like, oh, I want 6 portals. You want 6 portals so that you can go in there with a fucking glass cannon build and just not have to worry about defenses at all. You want to go in there, zoom, 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 shred everything in microseconds, and if you die, you'll be like, oops, that mob was a little bit too tough. That's too bad. I still have 5 more tries. I know what you guys are thinking. I know that people are like, yeah, I don't want to have to invest in defense. It's like, no. You have to put points into defenses. You have to balance out the offensive capabilities of your character and the defensive capabilities of your character. And if you fail to do that, guess what happens? You fucking die. I hope they keep it that way. It is what it is. I want 1 portal. 1 portal. For bosses, different conversation. Like for the Pinnacle bosses, I think you should have more tries, particularly because, like they've said, there's like economic things that are involved with all that, and you need to, actually grind for resources and stuff to get your attempts. I think you should get more attempts in order to learn the boss, in order to have a better chance at succeeding, and also to prevent the situation that is likely happening right now, which is before people actually go fight the bosses, they look up strategies on YouTube, because you're only going to get 1 shot at getting those bosses. So, to me, I like the fact that in maps you get your 1 portal, and if you fuck up, you die. That's too bad. So sad. Try again. I like that. I mean, you still go glass cannon, but that's your risk. Hey, but, that's fine. I'm fine with people going glass cannon, but it's like, if you fuck up, you die. That's too bad. You don't get to go again just because you're rolling a glass cannon with no goddamn defenses. Yeah, let me put points into armor. Okay, so look, the fact that armor is broken, that is a separate issue. You know, the way that I'm thinking about this would assume that defenses would be fine, you know? So like, for instance, people with energy shield shouldn't be having any problems. It's just too much frustrating if, let's say, you get that tier 16 and you listen. Do you think this hasn't happened to me? Do you have any ideas how many times this has happened to me? On my warrior, do you want to know how much health my warrior has? Like, I think that a lot of you guys haven't been paying attention, so let me show you. Okay? This is the warrior that I'm currently progressing tier 13 maps with, okay? I need you to understand this. This is the warrior I'm currently progressing tier 13 maps with. 2,200 hit points. Okay, 2,267. This is my hit points, okay? You see the energy shield here? 8. This is one of my random pieces of gears got 8 energy shield, okay? My warrior has 2,200 hit points, okay? Okay? I'm level 84. So when you're talking to me about losing juiced maps, it's like, if you lost the juiced map, you'd feel it. I've lost so many. You have no idea. You cannot even fathom the amount of juiced maps that I've already lost. Let me see how many deaths I have. I've died 63 times. I'm currently level 84, and I'm progressing on tier 13 maps. So it's like, all of the bad things that you can, I have this stance about the one portal thing, and you're like, he probably thinks like this because he hasn't gotten fucked over yet. You have no idea how many times I've gotten fucked over yet because of the character I'm playing, okay? Trust me. No, how you get tier 16 is the problem. It's the same thing. I'm juicing tier 14s. It's like... Listen, I lost a map here earlier today. Which one was it? It was this one. See this map right here? No, wait, this was the one that I did on stream. Where's the other one that I did? There was another map that I had somewhere around here. I forget where it was, but basically I had a map in here that was juiced up. It was fucking plumpy, okay? This was the most juiced map I had. And I fucking lost it, okay? I lost that bitch. And I spent so long fucking prepping up that map to just be like, oh man, this map's it's gonna be so good. And then I get in there and I got fucking one-shot by some random bullshit. It is what it is. You lose it. Guess what? For that one map you lost, there's a million more. There's a million more maps. It never ends. There's maps everywhere. The Atlas is literally infinite. Fine. I'm sure you'll survive. So, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. I prefer having a punishment for death because it makes you feel way better when you win. How can you feel good about winning if the possibility of losing was never there? And if you're going to tell me like, oh, well, if you die 6 times, you lose. I mean, 6 fucking times? Come on now. I have 3,000 health plus ES evasion build, 241 deaths. I mean, I'm not going to say anything, okay? I'm going to be nice. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. The fact that you got to this tier at only 2.2k life speaks to GGG. His comments about map aggression being weird right now, probably too fast. Huh. Hey, Paul, what's up, dude? People always want to win. Of course. It makes sense that people want to win. But I personally hope they don't change their vision of one portal per map. I think it's actually a good thing. I genuinely do. I know that people are going to disagree with that, but I genuinely think that's a good thing. It is what it is. I think I'm going to juice up this tower next. Seems like a plan. Did they say about the trials of Sekma? I don't think that they asked about trials at all. I don't think they asked about Ascendancy trials. I don't think that was a topic of discussion. Well, we'll circle back on this issue when we try to get tier 16. Sure. It's like I don't the thing is, right? You're judging the game right now based on some of the cheap deaths that are happening. Right? And it's like you get a random cheap death in your map and you're like, "Ah, fuck this." But you got to think about how the game is going to be when you don't have these random cheap deaths. And whenever you die, it's going to be because of a mistake that you've made. A mistake that's on you. And like you have to think about it from that perspective. If when you died, it was because of a mistake you made that you can instantly recognize that you've made that mistake and you know why it happened. Is that still a problem that you lost that tier 16 map? That's the question that you got to ask yourself. Because to me, again, yeah, there was, like I said, there were some maps that I lost some random bullshit. The one that I lost on stream earlier today was some random bullshit. It was those fucking grenadiers that throw those grenades that are damn near invisible, right? Maybe if I wasn't streaming, I might have not even died to it because I would have actually been paying attention to what was happening. But because I'm streaming, I'm looking at chat, I look away for a second, and suddenly there's like 3 invisible grenades stacked on top of my character. I can't even fucking see them. They blow me up and I'm dead, right? It's like, that's just some random bullshit. That fucking sucks. Of course it sucks. But you have to think about, but what about in the future, right? Because the thing is, okay, right now you want 6 maps because there's some random bullshit. Okay, they give you 6 maps now. But then they fix the game and it's like, okay, now there's no more random bullshit that's going to one-shot you. And they want to take the 6 maps away. People are going to fucking riot. That's the problem. Question. Is this type of game that if I don't jump in sooner rather than later, will I basically miss a ton of content that will impact my experience later? No, I wouldn't say so. Because, like, right now the campaign's not even complete. Because, like, you have to do the first 3 acts twice. So, you're not missing too much. But the thing is, you're also... It's not like coming in later, you're going to have, like, this super better experience. Because you're not going to get to keep your character. The whole thing is that the seasons are constantly going to be... You're going to want to reset your progression every season to experience new season mechanics. So, yeah. Rurikhan brother got me the game for Christmas. I just got to Act 2. I picked the most struggling class, which is Sorceress. Sorceress is not the most struggling class. The more I die, the more I determine I get to beat it. There you go. That's the way to do it. To be fair, the only bullshit is volatile plants, grenades, and detonate dead. That's 10-second delay. Yeah. Yeah, knowledge, not experience, depending on what you want to go through. Depends on how you look at it and what will they do. They did have achievement, archivement, season locked skins. Every league has its own lore. If you consistently optimize a build, there will be a point where the only way you can die is quickly. One-shots are never going away. We'll see. That's the thing. But that's the thing. If they want to have one portal... They can't just give you some bullshit one-shots. One-shots should be allowed, but they need to be well telegraphed. Like, I think you getting one-shot is not a bad thing, so long as it's well telegraphed. And the thing is, right now, not everything is well telegraphed. Like, the other day, I died to, was the Crowbell boss, and it was with an animation that had, like, no fucking wind-up. It was all out of nowhere. It was like, slam, and then I heard the sound, and I was like, wait, what the fuck, bro? That the sound's supposed to come before the big slam, not after it. So it was like, oh, yeah. So there's still some things in here that's just some random bullshit. But if you think about it, when those things aren't there, then I don't think that one portal maps is going to be a problem. Well telegraphed and fair. Have you seen the clip what Arbiter has the AoE sun attack where you have to... Yeah, and then he blasts you. Listen, here's what I can tell you about that. I've seen those clips, and there appears to be a little bit of space between the blast and the circle. So you can still stand somewhere in there without it being too problematic. Okay? That's what I can say about that. Anyway, guys, it's a little bit late. I'm gonna go get ready to go to sleep. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me in this stream. Thank you to Darth Microtransactions and Ghazi for hosting the session with the devs. That was awesome. And thank you to the devs for taking the time to answer the questions and to host the thing and for making an awesome game. And anyways, for now, that's going to be it. Love you guys. I'll see you guys later. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.